Debates on the Discord stage. We're set for today's debate between Inconspicuous Supernova and Dani German on the topic of what is the status of this. Supernova will be taking the pro-choice point of view, while Dani intends to argue for the pro-life defence. Our debaters had agreed to a short opening and then around 45 minutes of open dialogue and then the question time. So just a reminder, if you're in the audience and you want to ask a question, just in the chat, put the prefix at MDD stage questions and ask your question. Say which debater you'd like to have address your question and we can go from there. And I'll put a link to all the questions towards the end so that the debaters can see it as well. So over to you, gentlemen.
All right. Hello. I think I'm going to go first here today.
Yep.
And I'd first like to start by thanking Modern Day Debate for having this platform for all the awesome discussions to be had. Thank you, Crux, for moderating. And thank you, everyone, for being here and participating today. Today's question is very relevant in the country where I am, which is the United States, and I know it's a big country, or it's a big question for all around the world. What is the status of the fetus? So this question is very interesting because the status of the fetus indicates that there is a relationship, right? A fetus has a status in relationship, and in relationship to what? And that's what I think we're gonna talk about here today. I'm not gonna dive in first to the the status of the fetus in relationship to the person that's carrying her or carrying the fetus. I think through what I'm going to say, through these topics that I'm about to touch on, I think eventually will lead back to what I consider to be the primary relationship, right, is between the fetus and ultimately the person that's carrying it. But to start out, I want to talk about the status of the fetus in relationship to society. I think that a fetus is a person, or a human, or a member of the species, however you want to put it. I think a lot of people on the pro-choice side would also agree. I know we hear a lot of debate about, oh well, it's not a person, and it is a debate. What constitutes a person? But for the sake of argument, I will concede that okay, the fetus is a person. It is a person. Um, Now, what does that mean morally? Like, what is the moral status of the fetus? Well, that is a very interesting question because morality pertains to behavior, specifically right and wrong behavior. So it's very doubtful that the fetus has any sort of capacity to behave. But again, just kind of conceding the point that it is a person and that there is behavior going on there. I think that what we can say though, well, and this is where I was getting a little confused about preparing for this debate. I'm like, well, okay, so it doesn't seem that the fetus has any moral status in and of itself, right? It's really particularly the life of the fetus that is given moral status, that the life is growing, it's moving, it's being exactly what it's meant to do and be, and should have the right and the protections to do and be the things that it is. Um, but then there's also the fact that no, the moral fetus, even like even a dead fetus has moral status in the fact that it is a person, and all people, whether they're alive or dead, should have some sort. They have honor to them, right? We should respect them for just who they are, for just for being people. So going with that, right? What does that mean for the legal status? What is the legal status of a fetus? Should the fetus have the right to life? Should they have the right to do these things? And this is where the contention, I think, really lies. That the pro-life side says, yes, the fetus has an absolute right. They have the right to life, and that they have the right to life. Okay, well, if that is the only thing being considered, then I think they're right. But there is one point that is not being considered on the pro-life side, and that is liberty. There is liberty with people. And when we talk about things like morally acceptable, things that are morally acceptable, what we're saying there is that there is a bridge between right and wrong action, between what is moral and what is not. Morally acceptable would be like that bridge that crosses those two paths, right? They're not exclusive from each other. Prime example being killing, right? It is not, right? Just kind of in a general sense, it's not good to kill people. We shouldn't kill people. We make laws about that. You can't kill people. However, there are circumstances and situations where it is acceptable and permissible to kill somebody, particularly self-defense. Now, I think we all would agree that murdering someone is not right. You shouldn't do it out of malice. You shouldn't have malice aforethought into murdering someone. But the result is all the same. And what's different is how we categorize these different things. The pro-life says that abortion is murder. Well, again, a murder has malice aforethought. There is evidence that is required to convict someone of murder and to prove that someone is being murdered. So when it comes to the question of what is the legal status of the fetus, well, they do not enjoy protections. And this is acceptable because of several different factors, and I'll name a couple of them. One being that the fetus has no viable life. It has no viable life, meaning it can't exist outside of the person who is carrying it. And with that has to be considered the life and the liberty of that person. They have a right to life and they have a right to their liberty. And the big thing is they also have legal and constitutional, in a democracy where there's constitutional laws in society, which society has agreed to abide by, that they will honor the life and the liberty of other people, regardless if they agree, right? Because one thing that is agreed on in society is the Constitution. So knowing that a woman has the constitutional protections to her life and her liberty, and since the fetus does not have viable life, it is acceptable for a woman to have an abortion within, and I would say within 24 weeks. We just had Roe v. Wade overturned over here. I think that was a critical mistake because when it comes to constitutional law, I know it's a little confusing, but what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to give space to the federal government, the state government, and even the individuals. So individuals enjoy the same amount of freedom and power that the government would have. If pro-life were to get their way, and if pro-life were to succeed in their endeavor to making abortion illegal, essentially what they are doing, effectively what they are doing, is giving the power of who gets to live and who gets to die completely to the state. And this has to be warned against. This has to be cautioned. Giving this amount of power to federal government, to state institutions, giving them space within a person's liberty, within a person's private realm of liberty and protected space of constitutional life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is tyranny. I look at that as complete tyranny. So to say that a woman has no right in the say of her own pregnancy is a direct threat to liberty itself and effectively to the life and to democracy even. So I stand here today, I am pro-choice because I am for individual liberty. I am for individual governance, and I believe in that. So with that, I will close.
That was a 9.5 minute opening. Thank you very much. Now, if Danny would like to respond.
Yes, thank you. I would like to preface my argument by kind of laying out the foundations or giving you a vague sketch of my position. I think when people talk about pro-life and pro-choice, we have like a caricature of what the other side's position is. When people look at a pro-choicer, they believe that abortion should be okay, up until 9 months. A lot of people believe that. The other side believes that. When people talk about pro-lifers, people think that, pro-lifers think that you should be forced to carry a pregnancy, even if you were raped, even if you were underage, and even if it, has a risk to your life. I think we should add a little more nuance, and I think one way of doing that is just kind of sketching out my position. So I believe that abortion is a moral wrong. I believe that abortion should be banned by the government in these circumstances, in which there was consensual sexual intercourse between two consenting adults, and that has led to a pregnancy that is viable, that will, and when I mean viable, I mean does not have severe mental retardation, does not have severe health issues, and will, have a future like ours. Now, if you look at the way that I carved out my position, you would notice that I have an exception for these circumstances. Circumstances of rape, circumstances in which the mother is underage. I'm going to explain why I feel that way in a moment's notice, in a moment. But I think I would like to also kind of talk about what Inconspicuous Supernova values as well. He says that he values liberty and he values freedom from the state. I value those things as well, but what I am not is an anarchist. If we do not, at the very least, protect the life, the individual right to freedom and to life, then I don't think having any kind of government is of any use at all. Isn't this the most fundamental right that a human being must have in order to, secure all his other rights? How can we say that if the government has the, total power to determine a pregnancy, which is a, pretty bad, I think, in my situation, in my point of view, a pretty bad way of phrasing it. If we are to take that logic to its, logical conclusion, we would also say that the government should have no power over the justice system at all. We would say that the government should have no power when it comes to burglaries, to kidnappings, to murders, because, I mean, who is to say that the government is going to make the right choice? Who is to say that the government can make the right choice when it comes to who lives and who dies? The main point is, by us living within a country, by us living within a country, such as the United States, such as South Korea, such as China, we are consenting to be governed. We accept the rule of law, and we may take action to change it through the legal system, but first of all, we need to accept it. Through every law, whether it be traffic violations, whether it be murders, whether it be kidnappings, we need to accept that the government does have certain control, about us. And this is not something that is exclusive to only abortion. This is something that is, wide-ranging from every situation that we talk about. Another thing that I would like to talk about is kind of appeal to the status quo that I was hearing multiple times in Inconspicuous Nova's opening. He says that the woman has a constitutional right to her own body and to her own medical, situations. And I ask, what constitution? To America's constitution? To India's constitution? To China's constitution? What about our certain constitution right now has a moral prevalence or a moral superiority over all other constitutions and therefore should be appealed to? I reject that idea wholesale. To engage in a debate about the status of the human being, about the fetus, a unborn child, I think moral arguments should be made first, and then appeals to authority, and then appeals to the law should be made second hand. And those should never be the things that you are leading with, because that is only begging the question. Not only that, to my knowledge, recently Roe v. Wade was overturned. So the quote unquote God given right to reasonable privacy that was changed and was interpreted to you can kill your child at any time for any moment's notice is actually not even a constitutional right that is secured in all states anymore. I find that argument to be uh, very weak. Now, I think with my remaining time, I would like to return to what I was talking about with the certain exceptions that I hold to this rule. The certain exceptions that I give towards underage children being pregnant, and women who are raped being able to abort their fetuses. I mentioned before that I value liberty as well, and I don't think valuing liberty as well as human life is going to nullify the position that the status of a fetus is that of moral value, of moral consideration. Um, Let me give you an analogy here. Let's say that a homeless man has intruded into your house, or a burglar has intruded into your house. In that situation, we know that burglars and homeless men have moral value. We know that these are persons, we know that these are human beings, and we know that this is not something that we, take lightly. We can't, drive over a homeless man, just kill a burglar when he is not burglaring. But if he goes into your house in a situation in which you did not consent to, you have the right to repel him from your own body. You do not have, from the legal standpoint, from the standpoint in which you are morally obligated to let that person be within your property. And this is what a lot of people call the violinist argument. And I accept that wholesale. The only fact is the critical fact is about consent. If you did consent to a human being coming into your home, if you did consent to a pizza, delivery man delivering you pizza, you cannot blow his head off with a shotgun just because you came to your front lawn. In what situation is that is that morally acceptable? In no situation is that morally acceptable. In a situation in which a mother has adopted 4 children from an orphanage and are now living in a winter cabin up into mountains, the mother cannot just say, out of her own whims and desires, that she does not wish to carry that baby any longer. She does not want to, give these children food any longer, and just, push them out into the front lawn for them to freeze to death. It doesn't matter if we are to make the argument that, oh, the mother, was the only ones that were keeping them alive. The children were not viable outside of that home, outside of that cabin in that time. Well, then I think you would have to bite the bullet when it comes to that cabin analogy as well. If we are to be able to kill fetuses, if they are not valuable, and because they are not viable, we should also kill human beings that are outside of the womb who are also not viable, viable as well, such as people with polio, and the analogy that I gave earlier. Um, so I think wrapping up, what I would like to see in this debate is a clear mapping out of what we view as personhood, of what we view as moral consideration, and then we move on to the legal aspects of the situation. Um, Thank you. I think I don't really have much else to say.
Okay, thank you to both speakers for your openings. I have made a mistake when I started the event. I accidentally started a second event, so Whodunit's just going to see if he can hit start. He's clicking it now for us. It might have a little pause for us, but otherwise I think it may be okay. Did that work? Stage is already open. Okay, cool. It was just an accident. I didn't hit click event on the event tab. I just opened a fresh one. So apologies for that. Okay, so we can jump now into the 45-minute open discussion. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Yes, I don't really know how to start this, but greetings, Inconspicuous Supernova. I am very glad to share this stage with you, but I would like you to kind of deal with what I have laid out in my opening statement. That was dealing with your opening statement. Do you have any rejections, or do you have any points in which you disagree with?
Sure, I think there's several points. I got several points written down here, and I'm sure we'll touch on all of them. The part that I want to start with first is morality, because you say that that is the most, well, that should be laid out first, and that life is the most fundamental thing, that you're kind of valuing life a little more than liberty, it sounds like. Is that correct?
I think we should look at it this way. Can you have life without liberty? The answer is
I
yes. Can you have liberty without life? The answer is clearly no. So I think in a situation in which we can prioritize one over the other, I think life should almost always be prioritized when it comes to certain situations that we can talk about. Yes.
I would liken it to like a coin where you have life on one side and liberty is the other, and these two are inherently the same. That with your life, you have the liberty to your thoughts, you have the liberty to your own will. You can will what you think, you can will what you do, and you can will even how you feel.
I
So,
disagree with that.
freedom. I mean, you are free to be your person.
Well, there are many situations in which I am not free. For example, I am not free to pull the trigger of my AR-15 when I am in a movie theater. I am not free to my own body, to my own fingers, if I want to, for example, smack another human being in the face. There are always restrictions on your freedom, always carve-outs to what you can do and not do if you are living within a civilized society. And that is what we are living in right now, I assume. And that is why I don't think the argument for freedom has anything to do with, the topic of, what the status of a fetus is. First of all, freedom is a legal aspect. You are not free from the moment you are born. Freedom is something that is granted to you by your peers around you. For example, a lot of people talk about, the freedom of, just a different, different thought of gay marriage. I want to be free, so you guys want, so you guys consider us to be a married couple. In that situation, your freedom requires other people to act around you. The same thing when it comes to abortion. I want to be free for the doctor to have an abortion onto me. No, no, no. It is not about you. It is about other people doing things to you that you want. It is not freedom. This is rights. And I think there must be a clear distinction between those two.
And this is, I'm not going to directly respond to what you just said because we can come up with all sorts of examples, but this is why I want to bring up morality first. I really want to touch on that first because this seems like a really big point for you, and I agree. Morality is a big point. We should talk about that. And that's why morality, when we're talking about morality, morality consists of right and wrong behavior. Right and wrong behavior. Now, to do a moral action requires free will. Would you agree with that?
Um, well, when it comes to free will, I am a compatibilist, so it depends on what you meant by free will. Um, if you
You
meant by
have to choose
libertarian free will,
to do the act. You have to
yes,
willfully choose from by yourself without any outside external
yes,
influence.
yes. Yes. So when it comes to libertarian free will, when it comes to the metaphysics of it, I'm not entirely sure of libertarian free will. But when it comes to a legal theory such as libertarian free will, sure, I think we can talk about that as well. I think in that situation, I would accept the existence of free will. But I think there is a big distinction. Um, just because only moral agents can engage in free will doesn't mean that only agents with free will can be morally considered. I think this can be, established by talking about, puppies or elephants. If we are to say that, elephants or puppies don't have free will, or fetuses or, little tadpoles can't have free will, that doesn't mean that they have no moral value. Morality is something that is done by the action. Morality is on you. It is moral for you to not kill the elephant. It is moral for you to not kill the fetus. It is
Well,
not
right, and that's
them being
what I'm bringing
immoral
up.
that leads to you killing them. Yes.
You have to willfully do that act in order to be moral. In order for it to be a moral act, it has to be done willfully
Well,
by your
first,
by
as
free.
I said, yes, as I said, there is a distinction between things worth of moral consideration and things morally considering. Of things being able to morally consider, and if we are to draw the line that a fetus cannot, for example, have moral considerations or think morally, well, let's think about infants. When you are just, fresh out of the womb, how much better are you at making moral judgments than a fetus? Can you make any moral judgments? You don't even have object permanence yet. You don't have any of these, skills, any of these ideas of right or wrong within you. That is much different than a fetus. So if we are to make the argument that we can kill fetuses because they cannot give moral consideration, which is, as I said, different from being able to be morally considered, um, we can make the same argument for little tiny
Well,
babies as
that's not
well.
even what I'm arguing, though. What I'm saying is that if a woman isn't even doing an act out of her own free will, then it's not moral. So if she's carrying a pregnancy to term out of her own or by force through force of the legislature and force of society, then she's not doing a moral act.
Well, then we can say the same thing about murder as well. If the state is going to ban murder, then me simply not murdering is not a moral act. I mean, that changes nothing in my view.
Well,
That's
see, that's why we got to distinguish. We have to categorize in what sense is because I'll concede that abortion is killing a person, but it is not murder. It is like self-defense when it comes to the first two trimesters of a pregnancy. A woman is protecting her life and is looking out for her liberty, and she has the constitutional
so
protections to
I
do so.
wish. Sure. So I wish to clarify exactly what types of abortions are happening in the United States. And I sent a link into the open debate stage chat, and it says the types of abortions that you're talking about now is actually 3.5% of abortions, these quote unquote hard cases of incest, of when the mother's life is in danger, of when the woman is underage. In that situation, as I carved out, when the woman was raped and when the person was underage, I think of course abortion should be okay. And when it comes to the mother's life being in danger, I think the state should stay out of it, of course. But notice that simply you feeling a certain way about another human being does not constitute this idea of self-defense. Just because you are quote unquote threatened by a man with a tattoo or threatened by a man passing behind you that pose no obvious threat to your own body, which is the case for, as I said, 96.5% of abortions, then I think we should both agree that the self-defense type of situation does not apply. And when it does apply,
No,
I agree with you.
no, no, no. I didn't say anything about rape. I didn't say anything about these
Well, that is
outliers.
what you talked about when you were.
Hold on. No, what I said is I think a woman has the liberty to have an abortion if she wants to, even if she consented to sex. If she consented to have sexual relations with someone, but she did not consent to be pregnant,
No, I
and
don't think
she
there is a
has the
distinction between those two.
liberty, hold on. She has the liberty to get an abortion. She does.
Well, first of all, I mean, I understand that is your position. I understand that you feel that way, but we are in a debate. We are supposed to flesh out why we feel a certain thing. Now, if you are going to make the distinction between having, sexual intercourse and having, having a baby, I think, if we are to carry that logic, a murder can also carry the quote unquote differentiation between swinging an axe to a person's head and that person dying. And therefore, I didn't mean for that person to die. I didn't mean for that person to bleed, and therefore I should be morally, absolved of that type of situation. And even if the person did not quote unquote consent to the interaction, if we are to assume or if we are to, acknowledge that the person's, there was a gross risk and there was a gross inability of that person to talk about risk, such as, like when we talk about, I think the exact name is gross negligibility, or something. I'm sorry about my pronunciation, but in that situation, yes, although murder cannot be put onto that human being, we can talk about
And this
manslaughter,
is
we can
where
talk
you
about
cross
second
the
degree
lines.
murder.
This is where you cross the lines into the legal terms because I mean, I think we all agree that killing somebody, and this is what I want to say, when it comes to murdering somebody or killing someone out of self-defense, it is not a good situation. That is not an ideal situation. That is not like a right or a good or anything like that. But if someone needs to kill somebody out of self-defense, I think we would all agree like yes, they have the right to do so, the legal right to do so, and it's even morally acceptable. Now,
Yes, yes, I
moral
agree.
acceptance, like I said in the beginning, is a bridge between what is wrong and what is right. Murder is wrong. I'm not disputing that. But you're categorizing a first trimester abortion as a murder, as if it's a homicide.
Well,
And that is
first of
not even
all,
in the same category.
when we talk about murder, I agree there needs to be malice. There needs to be total acknowledgement that what you are aborting is a human being. I don't think the majority of women know that they're aborting a human being. A lot of women just think of abortion as like a plan B. A lot of women just think that what they're doing is nothing different than than menstruating.
Then why are
And
you screaming murder? Then why are you screaming
I
that
have
they're
never
murdering
screamed.
your child?
I haven't. I haven't screamed murder. I was only saying that a fetus is worth moral consideration. Okay, nobody was screaming murder. I think the murder guy is like not even in this room right now. Let's talk about what I actually think is happening when a woman has a first trimester abortion. The doctor, the doctor should know that what they are aborting is a human being, should know that what they are doing is murder. On that situation, second degree, some type of manslaughter charge can be put upon them. When it comes to a woman, then I don't think exactly a murder charge would apply, but we can all agree that what they're doing is aiding or giving permission for another criminal to engage in criminal activity. So I don't know exactly
Well,
the legal terminology that I would use there. Yeah.
you
I
don't
do not
think
think
that a woman is
self-defense
bearing
applies to
child?
the vast majority. I'm sorry?
You don't think that a woman is bearing child with a human person?
What do you mean?
Well, you're saying that a doctor knows what that it's a person in there. Are you saying that women don't know?
Oh, yes, yes. I don't think women exactly, the majority of women who have abortions in the first trimester, do not think about this, health decision or not. So I don't think malice can be really attributed to them, and therefore murder charges won't stick. That is what I'm saying. This is
Oh,
not to say that women are stupid or that women, cannot think properly. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the majority of women don't think about this, when they're having
well,
an
I think
abortion.
the way I see it is that women, and I know we hear the arguments that it's just a clump of cells, but yeah, they're, it's human cells or whatever. They're human, they're person cells. So I think everybody's kind of well aware that okay, it's a person, or at least it's the making of a person, but it's
Well, I
not
think we
murder
disagree with
because
that.
there's no malice of forethought. They're not doing it out of maliciousness towards the fetus. They're doing it out of self-defense towards their liberty and their
Mm.
life and doing what's best for them. And they
Sure,
have the
I
right to do.
agree. Sure, I agree that your position is that position, okay? The fact is, I disagree with that position. I know that your position is that this is self-defense. I know that your position is that this is for liberty, but I disagree with that, okay? When it comes to self-defense, okay, I do not think a person just feeling a certain way or not wanting a certain human being within their own body when they have consented to an action is any grounds for this idea of
Oh, hold on, hold
self-defense,
on, hold on. They've only
okay?
consented to sex. They've never
No.
consented to being pregnant.
I don't think there is a differentiation between those two as much as there is a differentiation between a murderer swinging an axe upon a human being and that axe actually hitting the human being. If you are going to say that there is a differentiation of consent when it comes to one situation, you need to explain to me why there isn't a differentiation between consent when it comes to the other situation. Explain to me
Well,
that.
first off, your example of murder is pretty faulty because it doesn't matter if the person got hit or not. A person can, be driving intoxicated and murder someone, but that's not murder, that's manslaughter, right? It
Oh, sure.
requires intention, it requires a certain state of mind to be
Yes.
convicted of murder. And so
Yes, yes.
to say that a woman is murdering a
I
fetus
never
is
said
saying
that.
that she has well,
I
you're
mean, I
comparing.
repeatedly, no, inconspicuous, okay. You need to understand, okay? This is like the third time that I have said this. I do not think abortion is murder in the sense that there is malice. I think abortion is the act of killing another human being, and there are many other words for that, okay? But I have never said, and continue to never hold the position, that killing a fetus is strictly and always murder. There are situations in which it can be murder, but on a broad level, saying that all abortions is murder is just false. So just tell
Well,
me why
applying
it
this
is
to a self
disanalogous.
Oh, you're saying that my self-defense, and I think we're just kind of speaking past each other because you don't agree with my self-defense claim.
Yeah, I don't
You're
agree.
saying that my self-defense claim is in fact murder. That a person that they don't have a claim of self-defense because of their consensual actions. So because of
Again,
that, if they have abortion, it's murder. Is that correct? That's your position?
again, this is like the fourth time that I'm speaking about this right now. As I said, I do not think all abortions are murder. I think the vast majority of abortions, there is no malice, there is
And
no, complete acknowledgement that what they are killing is a person, who has all the all the capability and all the rights that are afflicted to another human being. In some situations, it can be murder, but to say that abortion is murder is going to be
Okay,
wrong.
what
I
about
think.
my situation with self-defense? Like when a woman is in a first trimester of pregnancy and she simply
Mhm.
does not want it, but she's consented to having sex, if
That is
she
that is
goes and
not
has
self-defense in my
abortion, is
book.
she murdering? I'm sorry.
That is not okay. So first of all, as I said, murder requires malicious intent. Okay, it requires an intent, and it requires an acknowledgement of what that person is doing. Okay. Now, if we are to talk about now, let me tell you what the situation is. In a situation where a person has consented to sex, know that sex is going to lead to pregnancy, as even monkeys know, even human beings who have
What
lived
if there's
for tens of thousands
contraception?
of
What if
years,
they're using contraception though?
then they have taken a calculated risk. In that situation, they have taken a risk, and they made a risk and reward evaluation, and they lost.
So
Okay.
your position is that the government ought to say to those people who are, constitutional tax-paying citizens, the government standpoint should be, oh, you lost, too bad for you. Now you must suffer the consequences. That's what society and the government should say.
Well, that is what reality does. If you make a risk and reward consequence of engaging in sexual activity while using a condom, in which the condom is advertised as 99% effective, 98% effective, and it fails, then of course you should live with the consequences. Same thing as gambling. If you gambled everything on red, then of course the government is going to come along and say, "Oh, you better pay up. You're going to live with the consequences." There is no differentiation here. The only differentiation or the only exception that I would make in that situation is if the person could not have given consent, such as if the person engaged in this activity while they were underage, or were engaging in this activity in this activity while being raped, or some other situation in which there was no consent to the actual risk taking that was involved. Now let me ask you a question, okay? Now you're saying that you're talking about self-defense, 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 okay? Explain to me what exactly self-defense is.
Self-defense is you protecting your life and your liberty.
Your life, right? And your
Yeah.
liberty, okay? In that situation, okay? If a woman just wants to have an abortion, okay? That is not life, that is liberty, right?
If she
Sure,
wants
in
to
that,
have an abortion, I'm sorry.
yes. So in that situation where in which the pregnant fetus is not a one danger to life, a two major a crippling of her body in which she consented to, then it is really just about inconvenience, right? And this is this is what I feel is like the fundamental differentiation, the fundamental um, the challenge between the pro-life and the pro-choice side. The pro-life side views abortion, or abortion to be a relinquishment of parenthood, in reality, it is really a relinquishment of the 9 month gestation period in which a woman, has the fetus within her own body. Those are not the same things. In that situation, the only way in which you can apply self-defense to that situation that you were providing to me is if you can kill another human being just because that person was a major inconvenience to you. And look, there is another word. There's another word for that, and that is called murder. Okay. So you need to
Okay.
give me a different. You need to give me a different or a better, definition of what self-defense is in order for that to apply in any shape, in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I think there's just a separation of values. You completely separate life from liberty, and I do not.
No,
I consider them the same side of the two sides of the same coin.
sure, you can't
Life
have one
without
without the other.
liberty is no life at all. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Do you think
we
I'm?
must have
No, no. I
liberty
cannot. I
to
cannot let this
have
go through.
life.
No, no, no.
So
Inconspicuous.
no,
This is so
you
disingenuous. I mean, I
value
need to.
one more than the other.
No, I
You
need to call
value
you out
life
on this.
over liberty.
Oh my God, inconspicuous supernova. I mean, this is. I think just so disingenuous. I mean, I never really accept this of you. I'm not saying, okay, that I hate all liberty. I'm saying that liberty must be reined in, just as
I
the
didn't
right for
say that
life
you
must be
hate
reined in.
liberty. I'm saying that you value life
You said that
more
I
than
don't value liberty. I mean, you literally said that I don't value liberty when that is definitely not my position. I am saying that when it comes to you living within a society, let me just finish what I'm saying, okay? There are certain limits on your liberty based on the certain laws, based on certain moral situations of your society. For example, I don't have the liberty to take my gun and use my finger to press on my trigger onto a public setting. I cannot shoot people just because that is quote unquote my liberty, my gun, my body. Okay? I mean, in that situation, liberty means nothing. Rules mean nothing. Laws mean nothing if you are going to take that position. In that situation, you are an anarchist. In that situation, you have no moral laws whatsoever. You have no rules whatsoever. So of course we need to have certain restrictions upon liberty. We need to have certain restrictions upon freedom, which is not even like which is not even like a coherent set of virtues. Like freedom is really just just political power. We can just put it that way. Um, so again, I need to ask you this question again, okay? Because we have moved off from this topic into another topic, and I don't want it to move off to another topic. Give me a coherent definition of self-defense, please.
I believe I have the one where you have a right to your liberty. And when you're saying that inconvenience, that a woman is being inconvenienced by a fetus, no, I'm inconvenienced at the gas station when I'm standing in line. But a woman literally has to give life, has to give her life, her blood, her vital organs, everything that she is, her person. She has to give her soul to the fetus in order to carry it. That's not an inconvenience. That is an ingenuine description of the issue at hand.
And that is what, and that
Dani
is
German.
what, and that is what a pregnancy is. Yes, a pregnancy is a very powerful process in which the female can give life to another human being. Yes,
And
in
you're
that
saying that
situation,
she has
no,
no right in what happens. She has no right to say in carrying that person in that process. She has no right, morally or legally.
I think I have carved out exceptions to my rule, such as rape and when the person is underage. I
I'm
think there is a
talking about
major
the woman
no,
who's consented.
no, inconspicuous supernova. Let me just put it this way, okay? A woman has complete control over her own body. Complete control over her own body in that she can choose not to have sex. She can choose to not engage in certain activities that are going to lead to certain outcomes. A woman has a complete choice to not adopt children from the
Why
orphanage.
can't she
A com-
choose
no,
abortion?
let me
Why
finish
can't
this.
she choose abortion?
Let me finish my
Because it's
argument, and you will
murder?
know why. No,
Because it's murder?
Incon- Inconspicuous supernova. I think this is like the fifth time that I'm talking about abortion and murder. I mean, I'm very confused on why you want to go back to this over and over again when I have made my position crystal clear. Okay, now let me go back to my analogy. A woman has the complete right, okay? The woman has complete right to not adopt children from the orphanage. What she cannot do is kick her children out of the winter cabin for them to literally freeze to death. In that situation, no, abortion is not justifiable. No, kicking the children is not justifiable, even though the woman does own, one, her own house, two, her own body, and three, her own will. Okay, but there are restrictions to
Well,
all
there's
of
a
these.
problem with your analogy there because
Okay.
the problem with your analogy is that those children that she would kick out of her house are born and breathing persons. The
Wait.
fetus in her body is not born, not breathing, not even viable, totally
Oh,
reliant on the body of the woman.
oh yes, and I think this analogy kind of flew over your head if that is the objection that is being made here. Inside of the winter cabin is when the children can breathe, is when the children can eat, is when the children can survive. Outside of the winter cabin, in the freezing cold, the children do not have a place to, cannot survive on their own. In that situation, they are not viable. And you would see that this mirrors the situation in which a fetus is only viable within the woman's body and not viable outside of the woman's body. So, are we really going to make the argument that a child is only morally, is only worth moral consideration when it is inside the cabin, but the second that that it steps out of the cabin, we should be able to kill it because, it cannot survive on its own? Well, what
Well,
human being can
we
ever
need to
survive on his own?
redefine viability first because the children would absolutely be viable out in the winter storm. They would be breathing, they would be having their own life force, maybe not for very long because they wouldn't be able to survive. But
Do you
that is
think a
not the
fetus?
same as viability in the in
Do
the
you,
in the womb
sure,
because
sure. So,
literally
no.
the fetus cannot support its own existence. It would have zero life if it wasn't for a woman, and you are obligating a woman to supply the life for the fetus regardless of her intentions or her mind. And that is not
No,
moral and that's not legal.
no. I think you're really just pulling a Don Quixote here. I mean, you're really just just debating strawmen, debating windmills here at this point. I need to make this very clear, okay? When it comes to a fetus doesn't die the second it goes out of the womb. Yes, it can kind of survive on its own, but it is going to die on the operation table. It is going to die if you leave it alone, and that is what post-mortem abortions are. This is a real thing. And if we are to make the argument that viability is only one, breathing on their own, and two, living on their own, and three, just having it, being able to, resume their own body temperature, I can list you a number of disabilities that prevent a human being from being able to do that on its own, but can
You know
actually
what the
enable a human
difference is,
being to
though? You
live.
know what the
No,
difference would be?
would
They
you
would
like to
be
let me
born
finish?
persons. They would be born persons and they wouldn't be unborn,
Wait a
unprotected
second.
fetuses.
Oh, so what you mean by unborn there is whether they're inside of the womb or outside of the womb. So in that situation, are you really saying that the location of the fetus is what makes the fetus, moral, part of moral consideration or not part of moral consideration? If we are going to take that stance, if we're going to take that, position and that standard, then why can't I say that, the same thing, this argument ad absurdum? If we take this to its logical limit, I can apply it to another situation such as the winter cabin in the woods. Oh, if the children are inside of the cabin, they can live. They are dependent on the mother. But the second that they are outside of the fetus, oh, they are unviable, and therefore we should kill them. I mean, is that really what we're going to say here?
Well, does Crux have a right to your body?
It depends on what actions that I have done. For example, if I signed a contract giving crops and my kidney in order for material exchange, no. For
Oh,
example, if I mowed Crux down with my automobile and Crux is going to die, then yes, I mean I would be morally obligated to give him my blood, to give him whatever I can to let him live, or else face the consequences of facing life in prison or 20 years in prison because I have engaged in manslaughter. So yes, I mean in that situation, even your body is something that you don't have complete control over in in certain circumstances. As I said, you don't have complete power over your body when you are holding a a Tommy gun inside of a theater. It is your body, it is your gun. but it is not your choice to, mow down several people in a theater. It is not, and I think we can all agree on that.
Okay, well, so you bring up consent a lot. So if
Wait, can we
someone has
finish what we were
not
talking about before we move over to
consented
that?
to something, if someone has not consented to something, are they morally obligated to do that thing?
No, I wouldn't say a person is morally obligated to do a thing in which they did not consent to. But there are certain things in which consent or responsibility are not just, put on by a human being. For example, if you're like in a night road and driving, right? And you're drunk driving or you're driving very recklessly and you hit a human being, right? I mean, you didn't consent to mowing that person over, but you're still responsible for it. There is no malice, there is no intention, but you're still liable for that activity, right?
It wouldn't be
So
murder, would it?
yeah, nobody is saying that abortion is murder. Like again, like I'm just this is just bizarre at this point. I don't know why you're so engrossed in this one position that
Well,
nobody
if
is
it's
holding
not
in this room.
murder, if abortion is
Yeah.
not murder, then why is it wrong? Then what is it for it to be
And
wrong?
the same reason that manslaughter is a tragedy, the same reason that second degree murder is a tragedy. I mean, come on, man. I mean, is this really so hard?
But self-defense isn't murder. Self-defense isn't worthy of a crime.
Okay, again, we're going back to self-defense. If you're going to make a self-defense argument, you need to at least, at the very least, provide me with a coherent definition of what self-defense is, and
She's
the few
defending
definitions that you
her
have given.
liberty.
No,
How's that not good for you? She's defending
oh,
her liberty and her life. She's
okay.
not
First of all,
providing for the life and the liberty of the fetus. She's providing the life and the liberty for herself.
no, no, no. I already explained
So
why that is not a adequate definition. I don't think that you have heard it. I do not think that you have taken that into account. So let me ask you a question, okay? In that situation in which liberty is defined so vaguely, okay, what is going to stop a human being from just killing another man just by their own quote unquote inconvenience because they're quote unquote taking away their autonomy? And when they mean by autonomy, they mean will.
again,
And when
we
they
have
mean, no,
defined murder. We
inconspicuous, let
have
me
defined
just,
what murder is. Murder is malicious intent.
nobody is talking about
That-
murder right now. I mean, this is so
Well,
bizarre. This is
when you're
bizarre.
talking
Like,
about killing somebody, you have to consider the intention of the person. You're saying that they're manslaughter or whatever they're doing. I don't know what you're saying. If they're not murdering, they're manslaughtering, but they're
yeah,
certainly not defending themselves. So what makes
what
you think they're not defending themselves, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to explain when you interrupted, okay? So when people mean by the liberty, they mean their autonomy, and when they mean by autonomy, they mean their will, and when they mean, okay, an obstruction of their liberty, okay, they mean an obstruction of their will. And whether that will is, something that our society is going to accept or not, that is a legal question, sure, okay? But to just make the position that self-defense is very vaguely a defense of life and liberty. I'm not saying that it cannot be. In certain situations, it most definitely can, but that vague definition is in no way adequate. Okay.
Well,
Now, I
let me
think
put it to
you
you
are
this way.
having.
Hold on, let me put it to you this way. Because when you're saying that because a woman has consented to sex, that she is therefore consented to pregnancy, and
Mhm.
then the counter argument is no, consent to sex is not consent to pregnancy, and you just
Then
say,
you would
"Oh,
have
that's
to.
not true." That's not an argument. That's just a claim.
I that I make a claim and I give an argument. I already gave an argument, but I'm going to repeat this for your sake, okay? If we were to make a distinction between having sex, consenting to having sex, and consenting to having a baby, which are causally linked, we have known this for millennia. We have known this from the moment that we are human beings. We have known this from the moment that we have brains, literally from an evolutionary standpoint. And we can also make a distinction between an axe murderer just swinging an axe of his own will, of his own liberty,
But
and that axe hitting another human being.
you completely dismiss the contraceptive if someone if a couple is having sex consensually and they are using
Mhm,
contraceptives and they are doing
mhm,
everything to prevent a pregnancy and they still become
mhm.
pregnant, you're saying that they have no liberty, they have no choice in the matter, they have to carry it out.
I think this is like something that arises when you use liberty as a buzzword way too much. Let me clarify this position
You're
once more,
using
okay?
you're banking on life.
Well, if we're talking about a fetus, I think using life, okay, as in a fetus is literally a living thing, I don't think that is a problem, okay? Now let's talk about this, okay? If we are to make that distinction, okay, then we can talk about this analogy. I think I used this analogy against Max. He didn't quite understand it. Um, but maybe it's going to be different. Let's say you have like Russian roulette, okay? Do you know what Russian roulette is?
I do.
Okay, so Russian roulette is when you have six chambers and only one of them is loaded. So a person has, done the most they can do to make Russian roulette safe, right? They only put one bullet when they could have put in, when they could have put two bullets in, when they could have put three bullets in, when they could have put. She did the maximum thing in order for them to enjoy that activity of Russian roulette. Can that person then, go around Walmart flicking that fucking Russian roulette over and over again because they have done the best they could? No, no, of course not. So if
Okay,
we are to
well,
make that for the, yeah,
I mean that's a nice analogy, I suppose. Let me give you another one. If I get in my
okay.
car and I
Hmm.
start driving on the highway and I
Hmm.
have insurance, insurance is my contraception, and I get into an accident, would it be right for the insurance to say, "Oh, well, you took the risk, you fucked up, so no, we're not
Well,
gonna insure you."
I think you're kind of confused there. Insurance doesn't stop car accidents. It actually helps you deal with car accident. So in that situation, insurance is going to be like abortion. If you are in a car accident, now we're getting into like the consent of the governed type of arguments, so we're going to have to make legal arguments here. If you live in a country in which there are traffic laws that tell you that, oh, we have no laws in traffic. Oh, if you hit another car, everybody is going to just get fucked. No, there are no laws. And yes, you consented to going into an accident. You can't do anything about it. But we live in a normal society. This is not, like a main phase argument. So, I'm just going to be able to make this. So in that situation, there is, like my position is completely, compatible with traffic laws, speeding laws, murder laws, kidnapping laws, criminal law, and civil law. I mean, this is really just bare bones. I mean, I'm not making any like special soup here. But
I
I would,
guess
I would, I would
where I'm
like,
coming I guess where I'm
yeah.
speaking a little bit past is that I live in a country where people have the right to think, to believe, to act and express themselves as they have the freedom to. Now, I know you're going to bring
Okay,
up they
come
don't
on
have the
now.
freedom to shoot their guns,
Well,
but
I mean, come
there
on
are
now.
limits, but it's the limits to what has been consented to. And the consent is the Bill of Rights that people enjoy a private realm of liberty. And that
Okay,
liberty is absolutely a right to their body and a right to the production of their body. And what
sure.
other people in the pro life want to say is that no, they're like, if you've consented to sex and you become pregnant, unless there's, this certain criteria, you have no choice in the matter. That is not liberty.
Okay.
That is not a life worth living.
Okay, so inconspicuous supernova. I mean, I think it's kind of absurd to say that, in my country, like in America, people are allowed to say what they want, people are allowed to do what they want, when that is literally not true. And even if it was true to the degree that it is true, like most of the civilized world, most of the West, most of Europe, most of, Asian
You're
countries have
using
it.
these analogies as like an absolute. You're right. You don't have a right to yell fire in a theater. You can't yell bomb on a plane, but you can
Yeah.
absolutely go on the street corner and say abortion is legal. Fuck the president. I think, you can
Yeah.
go out there and
Do you
say
think
what
do
you
you think I
want.
want to stop you from doing that? I mean, I'm literally having a debate with a pro-lifer. I'm completely pro speech. I'm completely pro debate, completely pro whatever we're doing right now. I think this is very fun. But
But I
I'm just going to deal
what
with
I
what you
think
said
you
there.
want, what I think you want is you want to take away people's liberty when they become pregnant with child after they've consented to sex. Even
Okay,
if
you
they
know what I
wanted.
think you want? You know what I think you want? I think
Hmm.
you want women to have the right to kill their own children, in which the situations in which the consequences are quite clear. The most dangerous place for a black man is within their own mother's womb. Okay, more children in New York are aborted than born. Okay, in that situation, okay, if we are going to play that game of speaking past each other and saying, "Oh, you don't like liberty," then I can say what it is. You don't like black children. Okay, but of course you don't feel that way, and of course I don't like, and of course me saying that I don't like liberty is not what you should say at all. So let's drop this childish game.
I
This is
think the
this is
only
not
one
worthy
who's
of our
been
time.
making appeals is you. I've been appealing to individual liberty.
You
I
have been
think
appealing to the
individuals have the
Constitution.
right
You have been
to
appealing.
govern themselves, and people have the right to make choices for their lives. And if a woman and a couple wants to get an abortion after they've had consensual sex, I'm sorry for you, but your opinion, you have a right to your opinion, but you don't have the right to make law that takes over liberty and life for other people. That's not
Okay, so this
how.
is quite fascinating. Okay, so this is quite fascinating. You're saying that you don't appeal to law, but you just literally appeal to the law of the United States, saying that a person can have an abortion at any time. When that is literally what we are debating right now. And of course, to just deal with your constitutional argument that you just made there, I mean, I think that argument is like at least a year or two old. That is at least a year or two outdated. Okay, Roe v. Wade, I'm sorry to break it to you, is overturned. Okay, the God-given right to like reasonable
And do you
privacy
know
does
what
not
that
mean.
means? Do you know the implications of that? I don't think a lot of people
I know
understand
the
because
implications of that.
federalism. Then
I
what
know the
are the
implications of
implications?
that. The implications of that is that the federal ban on legislating against abortion is lifted from the 50 states, and certain states are going to be able to make their own laws in order to ban abortion or to let abortions pass. Okay, this doesn't mean that federally abortions are going to be banned, even though I think that should be the end point for pro-lifers in America. I mean, I live in South Korea. I am South Korean. In that situation, our Supreme Court has recently ruled that abortions are banning abortions are unconstitutional. I wish to change that in the future. Okay, but I don't
Well,
think
let me
this
tell you
argument
why
that you're
that's
making.
wrong. Let me tell you why that's wrong. Because the reason why Roe v. Wade is absolutely wrong from a liberal standpoint. What Roe v. Wade did is that it carved out space for the individual woman to make a decision for her life. When Roe v. Wade was overturned, it gave all that power back to the states. That space that women enjoyed for freedom and decision making for their own lives, that was stripped away by the courts. It was given
Sure.
back to the states, and now the states enjoy full power on writing
Okay.
legislation,
Okay.
regardless of a
So
woman's decision. That is
okay.
against liberty fully.
Okay, so at this point you're just talking to the crowd. I mean, there really isn't any kind of clash here. You don't really engage with the argument that I'm making that this isn't liberty, even if it is liberty, it is, controlled by the government. Government controlling is not always bad. We don't live in an anarchist state. But at this point, I mean, if these are the arguments that we're going to be making here, if these are the statements that we're just going to be tossing out, I think we can just move over to the Q&A section. I mean, I don't really see a reason to just continue just listening to this. This is, yeah.
I mean, you can say what you want. I think you're the one who's been making appeals. You said that I brought up, rape cases. I never mentioned rape. I've
I
always
never
stuck to a
No,
woman
I brought
making
up.
a hold on. I've always stuck to a woman making a free choice after the consensual sex. If she just wanted to have an abortion, that it's not murder. It could be self-defense. It is killing. I've tried to say that, okay, it's killing a person. I'll consent to you there, but it's not murder. It's not manslaughter. It's not any of these immoral acts that are wrong. It is morally acceptable because it is categorized as defense, and she has the right to defend herself
Yeah,
and
I
her life.
know. Yeah, I know that you feel that a woman should be able to kill her own child. A woman should be able to have the quote unquote liberty to have an abortion. I completely know that, okay? But what I think I want from you, what I think the audience wants from you, is reasons why that should be. And I think it's pretty clear from the arguments that were presented
I'll
that
tell
they
you
are
why.
entirely
Because in
inadequate.
my country, women have consented to the constitutional supreme law of the land,
First of
which
all,
is the
the
right to
Constitutional
have her
Supreme Law of the
thoughts.
land does not grant abortions, okay? Roe v. Wade was overturned. Let's not get into that. I
Well,
already told
stop
you Roe v.
right
Wade was
there
overturned.
because you keep interrupting me. Because the Constitution says that only born persons have constitutional protections. Women are born persons, fetuses are not. So women have the constitutional right to life and liberty. Fetuses do not in the constitutional sense.
So
So they
again,
are protected.
who is Constitution? Again, where Constitution at what time? This is all
The
just utterly
Constitution
no,
that
no, no,
ignited
no.
all the other constitutions, that is the U.S. Constitution.
Okay, Inconspicuous Supernova. I find it very, very strange, okay, that you were going to make the case that you have never appealed to anything, but have countless time appealed to the Roe v. Wade, court decision that was recently overturned, appealed to the United States, Constitution when literally when we are having a debate, we are not making a case in which, oh, is abortion legal in America or illegal in America? That is not a debate. That is just a
I've
factual
talked to
statement,
you
okay?
about the moral
We are taking,
acceptability of abortion,
yes,
that
but
it
right
is
now,
not murder,
sure,
it's
sure,
not
sure.
manslaughter, it's not manslaughter, it is self-defense.
Sure, I understand you feel that way. I understand you feel that way, but you didn't give any adequate reasons, okay? Now, again,
According to you, and then you just say
yes.
that like that's a proof of neglecting my claim. That's not a
Well, I
just my
gave my argument.
not adequate doesn't
Well, I
disprove
never.
my claim. You have to present something.
Yes, I have. I have presented counter arguments numerous times against your own arguments. Your arguments did not change. You just restated your opinions, and at that point, only after I have refuted those arguments, only after I have presented counter arguments, am I saying that those arguments are already countered. We are talking past each other at this point. You are only talking about statements, okay? Now, again, I do not think, okay, appealing to Roe v. Wade, appealing to America's constitutions is going to solve the problem of should abortions be legal or what
What are
is the
you
status of
appealing
a
to?
fetus, okay?
What are you
You
appealing to?
you literally you are the one appealing right now. You are the one appealing to in our country, the country that the constitution that ignited all other constitutions. I mean, that is a blatant appeal to your own constitution. Okay, so let's not. I mean, this is quite. This is just kind of we're just
There's no
talking over each
world
other.
constitution. I've appealed to morality. I've appealed to the
No,
laws of my
no,
land,
you
and I've
appeal to
appealed to
constitution. Yeah,
society.
exactly,
I,
exactly. You appeal to the laws of your land. Okay, that has no argumentative power
and I've
when it
appealed
comes
to
to.
morality. And I've
No,
appealed to
you
morality.
haven't.
Yes,
Okay,
I
what
have.
arguments of morality have you made? You just talked about viability, in which I have
Morality has to
refuted
do with right
through
and
and through.
wrong behavior. Maybe if you would stop talking, you would hear. Morality has to do with right and wrong actions, right and wrong behaviors. To say something that is morally is acceptable is to say that there is a bridge between right and wrong actions. These two things are not morally exclusive. They're not polarized from each other. There are morally
Again,
acceptable answers. Now, hold on. Killing being one of those prime ones. Now, when someone is killed, whether it be in self-defense or in a murder case, that is not an ideal situation. Right? Someone died. There was something wrong going on there, right? I think in
sorry?
the case of abortion, there is something, it's not ideal. It's the same thing. But it is not murder. It is not manslaughter. It is self-defense because the life of the fetus is not viable. It literally depends on the life force supplied by the mother. So the state has no right to force a woman to supply her life to a fetus. No right.
Okay,
No other
okay.
person enjoys that right. Crux doesn't have a right to your body. I don't have a
Yes, I
right to
agree.
your body. No one has a
Yes,
right
I
to
agree.
anyone's body. Hold on, I'm
Yes, I
not
agree.
done. I am not done. So
You're just going off on multiple
with
arguments. I
that
can't
fact,
deal with every one of
with
them.
that fact, the consent is that at least in my country, I'm not sure how they do it in South Korea. I think they do it similar. I think they do it similar in Australia, but people have the right to their bodies. People have a right to their labors. And when the government wants to come in and start legislating that, that is a problem, especially here in the United States.
Okay.
So to say
Now,
that abortion is murder is just a sensational, it's just an appeal to the crowd to pull on their heartstrings, or if it's manslaughter or whatever it is,
okay,
or
again, my God. Inconspicuous again, okay? I have never
You
called
say
it
it's
murder. I have called
manslaughter.
it manslaughter.
You say
Okay,
it's
let me
manslaughter. Whatever you want
actually
to call
reply
it,
to your
it's
argument,
crime.
okay?
Whatever
Like,
crime
let
it
me,
is.
well,
One at a time,
inconspicuous,
gentlemen.
yeah, let me just, reply to what you were saying because you made quite a lot of arguments there. First of all, appeal to law, we've seen it before, we heard it before. I don't think we really need to go through this, oh, it's the
Yes,
law in
we
South
do.
Korea, it's
You
the
want
law.
to know why? Because it's going to be reestablished again. Watch, women will enjoy that realm of liberty again here in this country. And it's going, I mean, not only that, a lot of states have protected abortion in this country. So when they
I
pushed it
mean,
back to the
really, are
states,
you going to let me finish or are you just going to make your argument all over again?
I mean,
Please,
you've
let me
I
interrupted me
finish.
just
all day and you've made appeals, but go ahead.
Can I just jump in for
Because,
1 second, gentlemen? We have finished the 45-minute time. I just wanted to make you aware. Happy for it to keep going, or
okay.
if you wanted to
Um,
wrap up.
uh, Thank you. How
By
about
the way,
this? I'm going to reply to him with my closing statement, and then he can make his closing statement, and then we can move over to questions. Okay. Now, I think it's very clear what we've heard from the other position. Appeals to authority, appeals to law, appeals to their own constitution, appeals to Australia's law, appeals to South Korea's law, appeals to America's law, and just general platitudes about how women are going to stand up and take the right to kill their own children back from the state. Um, this argument doesn't work for many reasons. We can just use like a very simple, symmetry argument, okay? Oh, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, when we are debating whether slavery is good or not, or the status of the black man in America, we don't say, oh, in this state, slavery is completely illegal. In Africa, slavery is completely illegal. In this situation, slavery is completely legal. And the South is going to win the Civil War. We don't make those arguments. We understand that those arguments are silly. I hope we can see the symmetry between those two. When we make arguments about viability, which is also an argument that he made, I think we can also understand that this is a very silly person that does not, hinge upon the viability of a human being. We understand that people who have gotten polio and cannot breathe on their own are not viable on their own. We understand that children inside of a log cabin are not viable apart from their mothers and are viable apart from their families. We all understand that, but we don't say therefore we are able to kill them. We understand that this is silly. We understand that these arguments don't work. I think another argument that we can kind of flesh out, we could, we should have fleshed out more, but we unfortunately couldn't, was based on liberty. What is liberty? What is freedom? What exactly is freedom worth? What even is freedom? Is freedom even good? Right? And I'm sorry to say that you can't have freedom without life. You can have freedom, or you can have life without certain freedoms. And this is how we choose to live our lives. We form a society in order to save, or in order to preserve our own well being, and sacrifice some of our power, some of our rights to the government so they can, mediate between, the human beings that are living within them. Uh, I'm trying to think about any new arguments that Inconspicuous Supernova has given us. Um, but I think that is over for the portion of my ending statement. I think Inconspicuous Supernova can start now.
thank you, Danny. Over to you, Supernova.
Okay, well, thank you. Yes, I have enjoyed this conversation. It has been awesome. Regardless if I haven't been heard by my opponent, because I have made several claims to morality, which I know was his big punch there. Morality has everything to do with right and wrong action, and no one can do a moral action without their free will. If you're not doing an action freely, then it's not moral. Also, to be morally obligated means that you need to consent to that action, like not murdering people. And this is how laws are constructed. And I'm not sure, maybe I'm completely wrong with how they do it in South Korea, because the way of the understanding of laws in this country is that the institution of government is by the people. So the government is given power by the people. It's not the opposite. It's not the opposite. So the fact that people should be asking kindly to the government, oh, can I have this right or can I have this liberty, is completely backwards to the idea of liberty here in this country. So I think that is a bit of a miscommunication that we're having. because sacrificing rights is just a zero. There's no room for it. And this is why I say life and liberty is two sides of the same coin. Um, my opponent wants to say that no, life is fundamental. Life is first. Life is key. But what I wish we would have talked about is what makes that life so valuable. Why is it so fundamental? We never talked about that. I think he kind of took off my realm of liberty. No, we have the right to think. We have the right to believe and act and feel. And if a woman thinks and acts and feels like she doesn't want to have this pregnancy, well, my opponent says that she has no right to say otherwise. That she would be at the very least inflicting harm on the fetus in an illegal manner, and that's not constitutional in my country. Again, I think people enjoy the realm of liberty with their life to make decisions for their lives, to self-govern themselves, because ultimately I think that's what's going to make an ideal society is self-governing people where we don't have to appeal to big governments telling us what we can and cannot do and who and cannot live. And with that, I'll yield back my time.
Yeah. Before, sorry. We had a
I
good
knew you
debate,
were going to want to
Supernova.
say something. I'm surprised you didn't interrupt me in time.
No, no, no. I was just about to say that I'm just gonna go to the bathroom really quick. So, if I'm not present here, just know that I'm going to the bathroom. Thank you, guys. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. That wasn't what you thought he was going to say, though, was it?
No.
I think so. We've got a few questions, not too many. First couple are just a test that we did at the start, but you can see in the chat there the questions if you like, and starting on question 5, Okraz said part of the problem that we were having might have been a linguistic issue. So it says, can I propose a linguistic accommodation that may help them to get past this sticking point on murder? And if I jump to, I think it's question 7, it says, the murder versus not murder issue is irrelevant to the larger issue. The assertion is it's a homicide that should be illegal. I'm not sure if you want to address that at all, Supernova. It's more of a statement.
Yeah, I mean, again, when someone dies, it's really less about, the act of that person, how that person was, a shot, was it whatever, and it's more about the intention, the state of mind where the person was. That's how we convict people of crimes like murder. And in cases of abortion, I hear a lot of, whether it's murder or manslaughter or whatever, basically what they're doing is they're categorizing this type of killing as illegal or immoral. And that's one interpretation that, for me, the way I would say that, if that's your belief system, you can absolutely believe that. And I encourage all my pro-life friends to carry those rape babies to term, to carry those unexpected, those unwanted babies, carry those babies to term and create a testimony. But don't infringe on another person's liberty to make decisions for their lives. That's illegal.
Maybe I
Okay,
can add to that as well.
of
Oh,
course.
can we comment on each other's questions? Is that something we can do, or?
Yeah, no, that'll be fine. That's fine. Normally
Yeah.
on the main stage, they would give since if the question was addressed to a certain person, then you would give that person the final say.
I see. I
Most
see.
of these are
Okay. I
just
apologize.
general, though. No, no, no. That doesn't mean you can't comment. It just means that they would have the final say after you comment. But these weren't addressed to particular people. So that was. Did you hear the statement? It was question 5 and 10
Yeah.
on the dump there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think arguments like that are inadequate. We don't say if you don't like murder, just don't kill people. The same way that if you don't want abortion, don't abort people. If you don't want to carry your rape baby, which is a bizarre term to use, rape baby. Like, are we really going to say that babies that were born of rape are rape babies? Like, it doesn't matter if your dad was a rapist. I mean, you're still a human being deserving of life. It only matters on the moral obligation that was placed upon your mother. Um, small note
You're
there, but
counting the women there. You're not even giving light or space to a woman. You're saying, oh, well, a woman was raped. She's got to carry the baby now. So
no,
what?
no,
It's all
no, I'm
about the
not.
life.
No, no, no. I think women should be able to abort their child or abort their quote unquote rape baby when they were raped. But I object to the dehumanization of fetuses that were born of rape. In that
Why?
situation, we can both acknowledge that a woman has, in that situation, because she has not consented to that sexual activity, complete control over her own autonomy, over her own body, but also say that the fetus is also deserving of respect and life. In that situation, these are only conflicting. We're not saying that one is, one the same, argument that I made with the homeless people. We're not saying that homeless people are trash. We're not saying that, burglars should be killed and they have no moral value outside of the kind of activity that they're doing there. I just, object to this, like this very like medicalization, this Latin word fetus, when we really should be just saying human beings, right? Unborn human beings, unborn children. And rape baby, I really object to that term. That was just really my point there. Yeah.
Well, I'll watch for the first, pro-life, woman who's raped and carrying it to term. Still waiting for that.
Okay.
All right, jumping on to the next question. This one's for Supernova from Jamaneko. It says, you say that abortions aren't murder because they're done without malice. I don't think that is the difference. Imagine a woman announcing that she gets pregnant and gets an abortion out of malice. Would you jail her? If that really is a differentiating factor, it seems that you should.
Right. So the claim and I guess he's not saying abortion like the self-defense. I never did get an answer from my opponent if the self-defense claim where is that murder or it's just manslaughter, whatever. It's
Well,
illegal.
self-defense or is different from murder or manslaughter. It is not manslaughter, it is not murder, it is self-defense. Self-defense is
It's not a
self-defense.
crime.
Manslaughter is, yeah, yeah, I agree. Self-defense is not a crime. But it
Right.
needs to be, but it needs to be looked over by a court and establish that it is actually self-defense. Now, we may differ on the definitions of what self-defense is. I think, to the degree where self-defense is going to apply to abortion, it's really going to be life of the mother, or when the child is underage, or when the person cannot consent to that situation. In those situations, I think self-defense are going to be applicable because of the arguments that I gave previously. But you haven't really seemed to be able to give a really, like a actual, argument or definition of self-defense that can be applied universally. Uh,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, the fact that a person enjoys the realm of liberty for their life and for their
Define what kind of
liberty, I mean,
liberty, Like define what kind of liberty. If a man is like if a man is stopping you from driving your own tractor, right? Stopping you from engaging in liberty because he's having a barbecue party on the other room. I mean, should you be able to kill him because he is quote unquote, stopping your liberty? No. So you need to refine your definition of what liberty is to a situation where it is going to be reasonable. And that is what was missing in our previous conversation, sadly.
okay, well, liberty is that which is, and I believe the liberty that we're talking about, which is societal liberty, right, is that which is agreed and consented on by the society. And I live in a society where we have the realm of private liberty, right, where we can make decisions for ourselves, like homosexual acts. Right? You can engage in those things. You can engage in abortion. You can engage in all sorts of things.
Yes, yes.
And this is where we go to the courts, and this is why I bring up the legal fact that okay, yes, abortion is killing, but it's not murder, it's not manslaughter. If anything, it would be like a self defense. But really, my position is that a fetus has no constitutional protections, has no moral, has no protections whatsoever. What is immediate is the woman.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think we are again misinterpreting what kind of debate we are in today. We are not debating whether abortion is legal or illegal. We are not debating whether fetuses right now, right, are protected by constitutional rights. Not, just as we, when we're having like a slavery debate, we're not, debating where slavery is legal right now or not right now. It's just like so again, we should be debating, should the Constitution protect children? Should the Constitution, protect fetuses? What should be the case, not what is the case? And I think that is really the kind
No,
of
the question, the proposition of the debate is what is the status of the fetus? Not what should
yes,
be the status, but what is the status?
okay, sure,
The
but that is a
status, the
question. Sure, but
legal
no, 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 but that
status
is a
of a
open-ended
fetus
question.
is
Do you
that
not
they have
understand that?
no
Hang on, one
protections
at a time.
whatsoever. And I have also referred to the moral status, which the moral status really they don't have any because they don't have the capability of doing right or wrong behaving.
Do
They
you
don't
think
have
infants have the
capacity to be
capability to do right or wrong behavior?
sorry.
Do you think infants have the capability to choose right or wrong behavior?
Infant is not an unborn fetus. That is a false
Wait,
comparison.
no, 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 no. I'm not saying that an
Is
infant
it?
is born. I am asking, okay, whether a fetus can make moral decisions that are differentiated from infants making making moral decisions if moral decisions are going to be your standard for personhood. Now, answer me that.
Well, again, someone is morally obligated when they have agreed and consented. Right. So infants
Wait,
don't
what?
even have someone is morally obligated when they have agreed or consented to that action or principle.
Okay. Okay. So can
So do
fetuses
infants
give consent? No, no, tell me this. Can fetuses give consent?
have no behavior?
No, no, no,
They
no.
have no
Look, look, look. Wait, wait, wait. So tell me why we shouldn't kill an infant if we should be able to kill a fetus, okay? An infant can't give moral decisions, an infant can't give consent, an infant isn't viable without the mother, an infant cannot survive its own without the mother,
But
an
yes, it
infant,
is.
doesn't have
An infant is absolutely viable without an infant can breathe by itself. An infant can pump
no
blood by itself. Yes, it can.
inconspicuous in many
What
circumstances.
you're saying is that an infant can't feed itself. It can't
No,
go
you
out there
have
and work and make money or something like that.
yeah, and
When
that
I
is me
say
questioning.
viability, I'm saying that no, the life force is not viable. A fetus cannot exist without the life of a mother. An
Yes,
infant
now
can.
let me reply to that. No, now let me
So do
reply
you
to
want to
that.
know the difference? You want to know the difference
In
between the
a
two? Infant is
no, how
born
about you
and
let me reply to that? No, no, how about you let me reply to that, okay? In a
well, I wasn't
significant
done. You
amount
were
of
trying to talk over me, so I had to
no,
finish
you
my
were
point.
asking me questions. No, you were asking me questions and I'm replying to them, okay? Like, like if you're going to ask questions that you don't want answers to, don't ask them. Just make your statement and let me respond to them. Don't like ask questions in the middle of it and then cut me off while
Well,
I'm
don't
explaining
talk over
why I'm
me and
saying
then
it.
say that I'm not even giving you a chance to speak when you're
Well,
talking over me.
you quite literally asked me a question. That's why I'm speaking, okay? Like you quite literally asked me a question. So let me respond, okay? So if now me questioning the definition of viability is going to be that it's not going to be like a meta challenge to your definition. It is a challenge to your well, it is a challenge outside of your definition, not within your definition, right? And when you're going to say that infant children who are just born can breathe on their own, can do all this stuff on their own, to a point in which they're going to be given personhood, well, I'm going to just point out that the significant portion of infants that were just born need to spend in some situations, even months within the hospital, being fed through a tube, being breathed through a tube, their body temperature cannot, sustain on their own cells. In that situation, they're not viable anymore than a fetus is not viable. So in that situation, are you going to put down the hammer and just say, therefore, if an infant is born with is born prematurely in the situation where that they cannot, breathe on their own, but we can, hook them up to a machine that is going to let them breathe on their own. We should just be able to kill it because it is not viable on their own. Are we really going to make that argument?
A simple question. Is it outside the mother's body?
That's not what I'm challenging here.
Is
Look, whether it is
absolutely the
inside,
point, though. It is
no, no,
absolutely the point,
inconspicuous.
and now you just want to skip
Okay,
over
let
One
me
at a
like you've
time.
done in
explain.
Wait on.
That's
No,
ingenuine.
no,
That's
let me
ingenuine.
no. No, no, no. It would be disingenuous if I just said it has nothing to do with the situation, but it wouldn't be disingenuous if I told you why I think it has nothing to do with the question right now. What we are debating is viability, okay? When you bring up the fact that it is the mother's body, okay, now we're talking about the personal rights of the mother, which is now, which is like a, analogous situation to like the violinist argument, for example, okay? We can talk about the violinist argument, okay? But what we are debating right now
False
is viability. So
comparison.
if we finish the viability argument, then we can move on to the violinist argument. And then we can have a discussion about that. But what we cannot do is say that, oh, the violinist argument is good because of the viability argument. And when we talk about the viability argument, you cannot justify the viability argument by pulling out another argument and going this around and around and around in circles because we are not going to go anywhere. Okay? So please just deal with the viability argument, and then we can move over to the violinist argument because I'm more than happy to discuss that.
So the question is if a person is not if a person is being helped breathe by a machine, should we have the right to kill them or something?
I think it was much more nuanced than that, but I think you understood the question, so you can just respond.
Well, I think again, it's up to the person, and I think it's up to the families. I'm not sure how they do it in South Korea, but if a person goes into a comatose state, there's forms that you can fill out. And I will tell you, I have family members that say, yes, if I am not able to breathe on my own, don't put me up to a machine. Don't hook
Mhm.
me up. Let me go.
Yeah,
I
let me
have that
explain
right.
to you why I disagree with that analysis, okay? What I was talking about was not brain death. What I was talking about was not like chronic, I think it was chronic coma disorder. I think they recently changed the name to reflect the fact that a significant amount of patients actually wake up from a comatose state. So it's something different right now. But what I'm talking about is when a child is born prematurely, or when a child is born with certain problems in the lungs, okay, we hook them up to machines that help them breathe, that help them, retain their body temperature, that give nutrients to their body. That is no more different than an artificial womb, okay? In that situation,
So,
they're not viable. No, no, just let me finish, okay? Because you didn't hear my, argument last time, so I'm just going to, just phrase up my argument again, okay? In that situation, should we be able to kill that fetus just because they are not viable?
well, you said something. You said something first before that. You said they were born. They were born premature, and now
Hmm.
they're being hooked up. So the fact of them being born
Hmm.
gives them certain liberties and protections. Yes,
No,
I would
but no, no, no.
agree.
But that is just like saying if we're debating slavery, right? Oh, right now is a black man who right now is in the North and therefore the Constitution protects him, but in the South, therefore, like we're not going to make those arguments, okay? We're not going to make constitutional arguments. We're not going to make appeals to the laws that are around right now. I'm asking you whether you
Oh,
think we
your
should be able to
argument is
kill.
not true. No, 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 no. Your argument is not true because in the
What do you mean?
Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, it said all men created equal. It
Wait,
absolutely gave precedence over to it. Absolutely did give liberties to every single American,
okay,
and
but
it
that,
had to be
that's
hashed out
that's
in
not my
court
point,
and
man.
ultimately on the battlefield. And that's what will happen on this issue if it continues
Okay,
to be pressed. Absolutely.
okay, look, I'm not debating that black people are not human beings. Okay, I'm just giving you a hypothetical. 200, 300 years ago, people were making arguments about states' rights or constitutional rights, saying that, oh, in this location, in the analogy to the mother's womb, the black man has no rights, but outside of the womb, in analogy to the north, the black man has rights. So in that situation, we wouldn't accept these arguments. We know these arguments are silly, right? These are what they are,
But
silly. Okay.
you don't even consider the liberty or the life of a
I
woman.
literally do. I literally do.
No,
The
you do
liberty and the
not.
right. Okay, look. I mean, if you look, I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, I literally carve out exceptions when the mother's life is in danger and when the
Right,
woman
you
has not
make these
consented.
little exceptions, but when it comes to a woman just wanting the right to her freedom, that she had sex, but she doesn't want a pregnancy, you're saying that she would be committing a crime if she went and got an abortion.
Yes, that is my belief. And you need to explain to me why that's bad
And
without just
that's
saying,
good.
"Oh, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad." I mean, that doesn't make any argument. So, next question.
Can we just turn you back to Jamanico's question? That was a good discussion, though, so I didn't want to interrupt. So the question was: do you think that malice, having that malice of intent, makes a difference in this case? So you say that abortions aren't murder because they're done without malice. So if the mother, potential mother, was to get an abortion and she was malicious in her intent, would that change it?
The only reason why I bring up that legal kind of case is so that we can categorize what type of killing is being done. I'm willing to consent that there is a killing going on there. It's not malice. I don't even think that fetuses have legal protections. So really, there's nothing to talk about. But when it comes to the fact that if we're going to bring this up, like, oh, like my opponent saying a crime is being committed, well, no, there's not. You know, if he wants to say if it's manslaughter or whatever it is, no, it's not. It's self defense.
I don't think you deal with that hypothetical. I mean, you're asking in the hypothetical where there is malice, is it going to be murder? You didn't deal with that like at all. Like at all. You just really just, I mean, I
I
don't
did
really know
deal
what
with
happened.
it doesn't matter at all. The only point where it would matter is the third trimester at the point of viability. Then there would be interest in protecting the life of the fetus. Where if there's not any like medical issues where you know the life of the mother is in danger, right? If a woman's walking in its third trimester and she says, "Oh, I just want an abortion," I would say yes, there is legitimate interest for the state, the legislature to say, okay, well, instead of that, we're going to do this other procedure, and if you don't want to keep the baby, there's abortion options,
Mhm.
things like that. But up until that point, a woman just has the liberty to get an abortion.
Okay. So, look, I don't think he's going to really talk about malice or murder aside from that. So I think we can just move on. My answer to that would be like, yeah, I mean, if there is malice, then it would be murder. But yeah.
I guess I just don't think that women are maliciously doing that to a fetuses. So this
But you
hypothetical,
understand that
if
it's a
a woman
hypothetical.
is maliciously doing that to a fetus, is that murder? I would still say no because a fetus has no legal protections anyway.
Okay, so again, just appeal to the current legal protections and the current laws. But I think we can just move on. I think we all understand what happened here.
Well, and they have no moral protections either. They have no capacity to do right or wrong. They have no legal protections to their
Like
life. There's no
infants do not have the capacity to make informed decisions on morality. We do not then say infants are, we should be able to kill infants. Certain
who's
vegans are going
we?
to say
Who's we?
puppies.
Who's we? Who's we?
Every sane human being who does not want to kill
Every
a infant
sane
will
human
say,
being.
yes,
Oh,
as
really?
I'm
Do
saying,
you have
if you
proof
want to
of
kill
that?
an infant, if you want to kill a infant, I'm going to just, define you as an insane human being. And that is why I refer to every sane human being is going to understand that even though an infant cannot make any, informed moral, decisions about, whatever, world circumstances happening around them, therefore we shouldn't be able to kill them. Every sane human being believes that. If you don't feel that way, I feel sorry for you, okay?
Well, any sane libertarian who enjoys freedom is going to say that any tyrannical monarch who thinks they can just walk into somebody's house and tell them how they can live and who lives and who dies and what they need to do with their bodies and how they decide and what they should believe, that's not a life worth living, and that's not where I
Well,
want to
you know what
be.
the funny thing is? You know what the funny thing is? You're already living that life. The government does have tremendous
I'm
control over you,
not. You know why?
tremendous
Because
control
I
over
live
your
in
body,
America where the
tremendous.
institution of government was instituted
Oh,
by the
oh,
people.
America, where they tax you for every purchase that you do. America, where they take away your individual rights when they deem that your speech has, threatened one code or another. America, where they take away your house or take away your
Yeah,
homes whenever you.
I'm taxed, but guess what? I get to choose where I work. I can choose to go to school or not to
Do you,
go to school. I
wait,
can
do you
choose
think
what
do you think
trade I
Korea
get
doesn't
and
have
what
that? Do you
trade
think
I
India
don't get.
doesn't have that? Like, do you think like in India, like people don't choose what profession they go into? Like, come on, this like American exceptionalism is just kind of cringe, man. Like, oh, in America, we can choose what we want to do. Like, what the, I mean, like, okay, like 70 years ago, good fucking job, like pat you on the back, hooray for you. But I mean, nowadays, you don't really brag about having choice about your own profession. Come on. I mean, this is just
Oh,
kind of
right.
funny.
And right. Why do you celebrate such why do you enjoy such freedoms?
Why do I enjoy such freedoms?
Yeah, how are
Well,
you able to do that? What system of government are you under?
the system of government that I'm under in Korea is like a democrat. It's just a democratic system.
Where did that
And
come from? Where did that come from?
where that comes from, well, I understand the origins of democracy to be stemming from Athens a long
Where
time ago, and then
oh, the democracy that you know today, that you're practicing today, that came from ancient Greece?
yes, the origins are largely accepted to come from Athens. America didn't invent democracy.
No, you all right, well, I'm not sure if you hate America or whatever, but the democracies that are set up in the world today use the United States as an example for constitutional freedom.
Yes, and what did the
Within
United
that
States set as an
Constitution, you
example?
have
Wait,
the individual right to your speech, to your person, to your beliefs, and when
so
somebody
this just
infringes on
portrays
those
a
freedoms, it's
sad
considered
amount of
tyranny,
ignorance.
and that's what you're doing here tonight.
So this betrays a sad amount of ignorance when it comes to, Western history. Okay, there was the well, look, if you really want to believe that America is the founder of democracy, America, didn't use any other, founding document of, let's say,
I never
France, or let's
said
say,
that. I never said that, but we wrote the United States had the US Constitution. England had a little parliamentary, but other than that, it wasn't around. It started over here, and you are enjoying, you're
well,
benefiting
first
from
of
that.
all, okay, first of all, look, I don't know what you want. Do you want me to thank you for your ancestors for making the
What I want you to
Declaration of
do is I
Independence
want you to
when the
recognize the
majority of whites
liberty
in
that
America
every
actually come from
individual
Germany?
has and stop tyrannizing over women and their personal
Look,
decisions of getting an abortion.
yeah, so I understand that you feel that way, okay? Like, I don't really know how much I need to repeat this, but look, you can have a democracy where certain rights are restricted. America has that. England has that. I mean, England is basically its old Britain. Europe has that. Most countries have certain, restrictions on your liberty. That is what the government is. Um, if you are going to make the argument that, because, America was the founder of democracy and created democracy, and you are benefiting from it. Therefore, abortion should be legal. I mean, I think you're going to have to draw a very long line. Some hula hoops you're going to have to jump through to make that a logical argument. But if you're not going to make that argument right now, I think we should just move on to the next question because this really isn't going anywhere.
Okay. Well, I don't know. The next question may keep us there. Again, from Germaneco, it says, you say that you carve out an exception for rape and underage mothers, but compare abortion to murder. How do you justify this? Does
Uh,
the end to murder, sorry, there's a bit more. Does the
mhm.
end to murder, what you see as a child, end at some point? Does it have to be the same child?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think abortion is always murder. There are some abortions that are murder, but saying that abortions are murder is not correct. It's like saying every shape is a rectangle. I mean, some shapes are, but really, let's be pretty clear on this. I think I said it for like six, almost 10 times now. Now, I think it's a very interesting question. How can I accept that, abortion is killing a human being, but I'm okay with rape when it comes. I'm not that I'm okay with rape, but I'm okay with abortion when it comes to rape. I think this is a very good argument from I think it was Judith Jarvis Thompson or Judith Jarvis Thompson called the violinist argument. Um, a very simple explanation is going to be like, oh, a violinist has like a very, crippling health effect. Can the violinist who has, no, legal contract or no contract with you, no agreement from you, just hook you up to a machine and use your body for 9 months? And if you unplug that, the violinist is going to die. I mean, most people are going to say that morally, that yeah, I mean, if you can, maintain the the violinist, it's going to be like a morally commendable thing for you to do. But legally, should you be forced to do that? I think most people are going to say no. And I agree with that as well. I think in that situation, I mean, you probably should be able to, unplug yourself from the violinist and save your own life and liberty because you have not given a, prior commitment to that human being. A kind of like a counter analogy to that would be if you already had a contract with the violinist saying that you're going to take away like 10% of his, wages from being the best violinist in the world, but whenever that violinist does fall into a certain, certain illness, you're going to give him blood. In that situation, yeah, I mean, you probably should be legally obliged to, give your organs away, give your blood away, and you probably, yeah, and you're definitely morally obliged to, to honor your commitment. So in that situation, I think that is how I would justify my position, as a secular pro-lifer. Yeah.
Supernova, anything for that?
Yeah, and this is where I think it's been frustrating in this conversation because, he wants to carve out these exceptions, but then when I bring up to the point, oh, well, women who are just want an abortion in the first trimester, he never really addressed that. He never said if it was murder or manslaughter. He always tried to tiptoe around it. Never addressed my issue there. And I tried to lead the conversation from that aspect. It doesn't matter about those exceptions. It's just comes down to the will of the woman. If what she wants, right? Her individual life and her individual choice. But he never addressed that, right? He's stuck on that. Oh, well, in that case, a woman has no right, has no liberty, has no say in the matter, and that if she were to get an abortion, she is committing a crime. We don't know what crime. I don't know what crime, if he even has one in mind. But this is I think it's just an issue of values, right? And again, I would like to get into the value of the fetus's life, or the value of the fetus, like what makes it so valuable that it trumps a woman's right to her life and her liberty, that she has no say in the matter. It's just not
Sure.
right. It's tyrannical.
Yeah. Uh, Before we move on, I mean, I think everybody here who has been here for like 5 minutes can already understand that I fleshed out whether whether an abortion is murder or manslaughter. I mean, at this point, I'm just gonna ignore like any more arguments that come from that lane. I think I already entertained this enough. I don't want to humor this anymore. So I think we can just move on to the next question. Thank you.
Okay, the next question was from me. Sorry, did you want to chuck something in there, Supernova?
No, that's all right. That's all right.
Okay, this question from me was taking us back to the topic. I've written, why should we consider a fetus that is pre-20 weeks as a person? Their bodies are not developed and independently functioning. Their nervous systems aren't connected to their brain. Are they actually a person at this stage?
Yeah, I guess the question is aimed to me because I'm the pro-lifer. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I meant
I
to say
think
that. Yeah.
Yeah, like the framework in which we analyze entities, I think it should be based on prediction and time, in my in my personal opinion. When we look at like if I, for example, throw a rock up into the air, right? And you can probably see that it's going to, have a curvature. Right now it's going up into the air, but it's going to fall down, hit you in the head, and make you mentally not well. Uh, Although the rock right now is moving up, right? We can understand that's going to come down because of predictability and that there is gravity and time, and that gravity is going to take its time and then going to, hit you in the head. Same thing when it comes to a fetus. We can understand that right now it doesn't have a nervous system. Right now it doesn't exactly have a brain. Right now it doesn't exactly have fingers. Right now it doesn't exactly have toes. But we can understand that it is going to have those things, and we can understand that it is going to have a future like ours with a high amount of predictability. Um, Same thing can be said about, for, like this other analogy, which is I don't understand. I don't really know if this is like funny or morbid. Like if you had like a gun, like a little laser gun that can completely stunt any type of puberty that a human being is going to go through, and completely stunt any kind of growth that person might experience doing that. Would you be able to shoot, go around like the children's hospital to prepubescent kids and shoot them with that laser gun, because right now, you wouldn't be robbing them of puberty. You would just be stopping them from ever having a puberty, and therefore it is not wrong. Just like you are not robbing a human being of a life, you were just stopping a human being from having a life, right? In that situation, we can probably agree that shooting that like really weird laser. I don't know who the fuck would even make that laser into prepubescent kids is probably one creepy and two greatly morally wrong. Greatly morally wrong. You're depriving the human being for with a foundational experience with their life. Another analogy would be like if you had like a Polaroid camera and you were going to be able to get like photographic evidence of Bigfoot, right? But then just as the Polaroid was being developed, your friend next to you like rips the Polaroid out because it wasn't a photo of Bigfoot then. It only had the potential to become a a photo of Bigfoot. Right now it was only like a black blob. We would call that an asshole thing to do. We wouldn't like that. I think we can apply the same thing to a fetus. Yeah.
Is there any sort
Uh,
of difference in the different stages of the fetus, like from that early stage right through to birth in that moral area, or is it you would say it's consistent across the board?
The predictability won't be consistent across the board, but the funny thing is that still wouldn't give you the right to intentionally kill it. For example, like if like George Floyd, right? He had like a high dose of fentanyl, which would have eventually killed him, but did not lead directly into his death. Like we can't
Mm.
say, oh, because he's gonna die anyway, we should be able to kill him. Like nobody's gonna make that argument. That's like a bad argument to make. That's like a horrific moral stance. So I mean, if you're not willing to kill George Floyd, you shouldn't be willing to kill a little child. That's basically what my position is. Yeah.
Nova, sorry I
the
interrupted you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. These analogies that these made up analogies that are just complete, they have no even distinct realm of reality like to them. With the lasers, I don't even know what that was about or what that was implying. These thought experiments when it comes to you know like yeah, these different things, I find them to be just really a waste of time and false comparisons, because
Well, I don't
what
think
really,
so.
well, hold on, because really what we're talking about is we're talking about born and unborn persons. Now, the only thing that could connect these two things is some sort of life force, sort of nature, some sort of what I would think to be some sort of intangible thing, because I have not seen through any sort of empirical science what makes someone a person. That's what I think I did great service to my opponent, just giving him that credibility. Like, hey, from conception, it's a person. I'm willing to concede that abortion is killing somebody, but it's not murder, it's not manslaughter. There's
Well,
not even a
even if you
crime
didn't
being.
concede that, well, look, even if you didn't concede that, it would be a very quick and swiftly won argument on the pro-life side to argue that yes, a fetus is a human being. Yes, it is living. It is backed up by the science. There is a scientific consensus upon that. You are not giving me a big gift by just conceding that, mind you. When I was giving you those analogies, right, I just wanted to spice things up. It could have very easily been right a medical intervention to make a human being not be able to develop in a certain way. It could have very easily been a picture of some government activity that would have been, a great grant. It could have very easily been not a human being like George Floyd, which was an actual real thing that happened in reality. It isn't very far off, even though we do live in clown world. It could have just been a human being who had cancer. It could have just been a human being who was about to die. It could have just been a human being who was about to kill himself. Okay, none of these things. Okay, I mean, I knew these were going to, fly through your head, okay? But these analogies, okay, even though I, present them in a fantastical way, convey very real things about the way in which we apply our moral framework onto certain entities and how we should and how we should not apply them. So I think, aside from just, hand waving these away, how about try and at least try and, debate them?
Well, I think if we really knew scientifically what a person is, then then you'd be able to just point to what that is, some sort of genocode, some sort of characteristic that would describe someone as human. But the fact that it is still such an argument just shows that it's not. It's still
Well, I
disputed.
think that actually betrays a large amount of ignorance on what science and philosophy even is. I mean, you cannot scientifically prove moral value. What even would that be? Moral value is something that human beings create. Moral value is something that human beings interpret. Like
Can you
in order
prove
to like
that
even
scientifically that we're creating moral value?
what I'm sorry?
Can you prove that?
Scientifically, I mean, we can look at it from a evolutionary standpoint in the way that actual, this memology kind of standpoint, kind of very adjacent to Richard Dawkins' kind of view on society. That
Right,
yes,
right. So
certain
what
moral
you're saying
standards have
is all
evolved and moral
convention.
views, but no, just let
What
me
you're
finish.
saying is all convention then.
Well, first of all, let me finish, okay? I think it is it is a disgrace, okay, to even to kind of point to kind of hand wave to only abortion as this topic in which morality is completely ignored when we won't do these things when it comes to stealing, when it comes to when it comes to a human being, like cheating on another human being. We all know these things are immoral. We don't need to justify morality. We can only apply normative ethics in that premise one, killing another human being is immoral. A human being, a
You don't
fetus is a
believe
human
that.
being. And conclusion, I'm sorry,
You don't believe that. Oh, you
killing
said
another
killing
human
an
being is
innocent.
immoral.
So you said killing an
Yeah,
innocent human being.
yeah, killing an innocent human being is immoral. Yeah.
And you're saying that a fetus is an unborn child is innocent.
Yes. Is it guilty? What crime did the unborn fetus commit?
Well, does the fetus even have capacity to behave?
Wait. First of all, no, that's not the question. Okay, you were saying that the infant was guilty.
I
What
never
crime?
said that. I never said that. What
Well,
I
then,
asked
is it
you
innocent?
was that the fetus is innocent, and you said yes.
Yeah, it is innocent.
And I'm asking you now that so the fetus has an unborn child has the capacity to behave because that's what morality entails.
No,
It
innocence.
entails behavior.
First of all, innocence is something that is granted by human beings around you. Innocence is something that is granted by a court. Innocence is something that is granted by a human being. Innocence is not
Oh,
something that
so
you
you
grant
so
yourself.
people are
No.
innocent because other people grant them to be
Wait,
innocent.
come on. Okay, come on. Let's think about this for a moment, okay? Just because a human
It
being
is all
doesn't this is like
convention.
the same no, so this is like the same kind of thing. I mean, it's normative ethics, man. Just try and catch up, okay? So if a human being is going to be, not able to do, behaviors, if a human being is not able to do, for example, morality, that doesn't mean, therefore, we should be able to kill them. Just like, a lot of, I don't know if you're a vegan, but certain vegan activists are going to make the argument that, oh, just because a puppy cannot make moral decisions, and just because a puppy doesn't know morality doesn't mean you should be able to do all sorts of immoral things, to them, because in that action of abortion, in that action of beating a little puppy, it is not the puppy doing it; it is you doing it. And of course, we as a society expect you to make moral decisions. This argument has nothing to do with the main thesis of my argument here. Do you understand what I said?
I mean, I understand, but you keep rambling on that. Like, I don't want to like interrupt or whatever, but you keep rambling on. So I kind of just forgot what I was saying, like or what I was gonna say, because you just kept rambling.
Okay, sure. So like when the other guy makes an argument, just accuse him of rambling and don't and not even accept the argument. I mean, look, if that's the kind of position that you want to take, go
Just
for it,
just
man. Like
remind me, kind of like what just kind of like just summarize what you just said
I
because it
think
was
this
very
is very
long-winded.
insulting. I think this is very insulting. Very respectfully,
What's
this is
insulting is you taking forever and being so long-winded,
me
and so
taking forever. Well, it's because you make all these points in which I disagree with, and you don't let me, tackle them one by one. I need to tackle them at all, all at once. And look, not all my debates happen this way. Okay, if the other guy actually understands what I'm saying, and I don't need to, repeat myself, like 70% of what I was saying was repeating
Crux,
myself,
can you
completely ignoring
can
the
you
argument.
remind me what we were talking about there? Can you just fill me in? I kind of forgot.
Okay,
So
look, the most important part of what I was saying, okay, was that the argument that the moral status of a fetus is nil because the fetus cannot either behave or the fetus cannot either make moral decisions is not a good argument because morality is what you do. When you kick a puppy, when you abort a fetus, it is not the fetus aborting itself, it is not the puppy kicking itself, it is you kicking the puppy, okay?
Right,
So
and you're saying that a woman is doing a moral wrong when she gets an abortion. But let me ask you this. Is she doing a moral right if she unwillingly carries that pregnancy to term?
sorry, a moral right if that woman unwillingly
Is
carries
a woman doing a moral good, a moral right action if she is unwillingly carrying a pregnancy to term?
not killing is not a moral good. Like, do you really want to say that? Oh, yeah, look,
Okay,
nobody's
so
gonna be like, thank me
killing
for
in
not
the name
killing
of
you, right?
self-defense, is that wrong? Killing in the name of self-defense, that's wrong. Is that what I
It
heard?
is neither wrong nor good. It is only justified. Okay.
Okay, I agree with that. That's what abortion is. It's a justified
Well, but
killing.
I disagree. Look, but I disagree. Some abortions, okay, some abortions in the cases that I've laid upon are are justified. I agree, but not all abortions are justified. Just in the same way that not all abortions are murders. Some abortions are murders, okay, but not all abortions are murders. Okay, let's
Like
just. I mean,
like
this is
the
silly. You're
abortion
just making the
that
same
a
arguments over and over
woman
again.
like an abortion when a woman who's 12 weeks pregnant, 6 weeks pregnant, 18 weeks pregnant, just found out she's pregnant
I mean, you
and
can
is not
intuition
ready
pump me
to carry
any
that
time.
baby, you think
You can
she's committing
intuition.
at least manslaughter.
Yes, if that woman is aborting a fetus when the person, yes, yes, of course, of course. Now,
See,
you can
the
intuition pump me.
the issue between us is I think a set of values because I value life, but I also value liberty just as equally. I consider these two equal in value. So yes, I understand that might cause a little bit of a messy situation because one's not prioritized over the
Wait,
other.
does a
That's
human
why
being
we
have the
have
liberty to
courts.
kill another human being? Okay, why does murder exist? If you're going to value liberty just as you value life, why are you going to, if you value those two things the same way, why are you going to ban murders? I mean, the person has a liberty to kill another human being. No, no. I mean, come on, man. I mean, let's just
Oh,
make serious
oh,
arguments instead of this silly
society,
nonsense.
people have
This
created
silly
society
nonsense, man.
where society has agreed that no, murdering somebody out of malice, you just can't go out and do harm to people.
Oh, sure,
But
okay, then we agree.
we
I think,
draw lines. And one thing that hasn't been said here, and I wanted to talk about this about why 20 weeks and why 20 not 24 or whatever, is because the law is arbitrary. At some point, you're going to need to just draw that line. 20 weeks, 24 weeks, 18 weeks.
well,
What
I
is
agree.
murder? What is manslaughter? Eventually, these lines are going to be needing to be hashed out. And yes, it is arbitrary. That's why the balance of power is so key. And that people, and I'm talking about individual citizen people, they need to enjoy and
Yes,
benefit having the same power that the
yes.
government, the federal government and the state government has. And I know that's a very
Sure,
radical
sure. Now, how
idea,
about the power?
but
Now, how about the power imbalance between a fetus and a mother? Okay,
right.
all
You
of these
want to give
analogies,
the fetus a right, but no one, not all society is
and
for that.
you want to give. Look, okay, like okay, and we can just really just move on here. Like this really just not of any use to the whole conversation. Like really,
Oh,
are we
really?
really going to make this argument back again that society agrees that people should be should be getting abortions? That the reason that my position is wrong is because because society disagrees with me? Are we really going to make those arguments at this point when we have already talked about that 3 or 4 times already? I think I'm just going to answer a few questions and just go to like the after party at this point. I don't think I really even want to engage with this type of nonsense anymore.
Because
all
you
right.
can't
Well,
engage with it. You just simply can't
I
engage with it. We
cannot.
keep
I
talking
cannot. Okay.
about
Oh,
consent,
oh. So you
talking
think
about
no, 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 no,
society,
no, no, no.
but
So
then
you
when
think
I
I
bring
can't
these things
engage?
in,
gentlemen,
oh,
No,
one at
now
a
it
it's
is
time.
not. Okay, so it is not worth engaging. Okay, appeals to the status quo are not worth engaging. They're not that I cannot engage them. Okay, that is literally like saying, oh, well, you're dumb because all my friends think that you're dumb, and you're dumb. and your argument doesn't work because all my other people, my family, my extended family, 90% of the population doesn't agree with you. That isn't a argument, okay? That is not
But
worthy, okay, of my time.
that has been all your refutes. You're like, oh, well, I just don't believe that. I just don't think that. And then you give your argument, you give your belief system, and you don't even address what I'm saying. You've never
I
addressed the
quite
woman that
literally
just
addressed
wants.
every single argument that you
No,
have made
you've just
multiple
said that a
times.
woman who wants an abortion at 18 weeks is guilty of a crime. Why? Why is that the case?
I
Because the
have
life.
Look, I have given my reasons. I have given rebuttals to every single one of your arguments multiple times. I think people who are listening can attest to that. Wait, look. If you want to rehash the whole debate, okay, just listen to our conversation that Crux has recorded, and you're going to hear every single rebuttal that I'm going to give you multiple times, okay? Now let's move on. And if you're going to make an argument, make a new one that I haven't already addressed. And if you want to, continue, going down that path, give a rebuttal to my rebuttal. Okay? Like we cannot just have you make a statement, I rebuke your statement, and then you say the statement again, because that is honestly tiresome. Like that is of no use to me or to anybody listening. So let's
I
move
think
on
we're
from this nonsense,
Yeah,
okay?
we'll move on. There's a couple more questions left. So the next one is directed for Supernova from Jamaneko. He's gone, but he can watch the video. It says, you bring up the US Constitution a lot. If it was changed, would it change your opinion as well?
Um, if it were changed, so like I guess because Roe v. Wade has been changed, but that doesn't. So again, this is what's confusing about federal constitutions is that the federal constitution is an agreement between all the states under that constitution. But yet, even those states enjoy creating their own legislation. So even though Roe v. Wade was overturned, which essentially kind of takes away the right of a woman to have an abortion. Essentially, it goes back to the states, and states like California, there's several other states like Oregon, I can't name them all, but there are several states who have enshrined in their own state constitutions right to abortion. But I think, as far as the federal constitution needs to protect individual liberties of born persons. Because literally, that's all that can be legislated is people who are born. You can't legislate people who are unborn. You have to legislate people who are born. That's why laws are being written taking away liberties and rights and freedoms that are enjoyed by women, states like Texas, that needs to be defended against constitutionally. So no, I'm for individual freedom. That's what the Constitution was established for. That's what it needs to stay protecting established for, not go to this socialized justice nonsense.
Okay, cool. Now the next one had quite a bit of detail in there. If you're still looking at the question, I'll just read the question part of it. There's a definition of biology and medicine, and then it said, aren't you talking about dependency versus independent life? Definitions above of viability are satisfied by fetuses. Are we really just talking about dependency versus independent life?
Is that for me?
It doesn't actually say, but I
Okay.
assume so.
I'm gonna
Like overall, sorry. Go.
Thank you, Crux. Yeah, so I'll jump in first because this has been a huge point. Like, my opponent wants to say that 2-year-olds are not viable. Well,
He's gone.
maybe they can't go out and work and buy their own groceries, but they can certainly breathe. They can certainly beat their own hearts. They can grow their own hair and fingernails. They have their own autonomy. So yes, they are viable in that sense. And not only that, to top it all off, they were born. They were born. And that is where the laws in my country draw the line. If you're born, then you benefit from these protections. Of course, you still got to be a citizen. But to make the comparison between a 2-year-old and an unborn fetus is absolutely false comparison. And to allow a pro-life advocate to get away with that comparison is just a disservice to logic and reason in general.
Okay. He's dropped out. I don't know whether he's coming back or not. There's only a couple more questions, and this one is a follow-up from Okraz to that last one. It says, and I think it is for you again, your argument seems to be that abortion should be like killing in self-defense, which is still a homicide, but with legal justification of defense. My question is, how can you say that there's a defense justification against pregnancy if the biological mother and biological father caused the pregnancy and the fetus was already in the mother when it began its existence? If you actively cause state of affairs and I was passive and I didn't state the affair, and I didn't cause state of affairs, then you can't claim defense against the status quo conditions. It's quite complicated, sorry. I think the question part there was, my question is, how can you say that there's a defense justification against pregnancy if the biological mother and father caused the pregnancy?
Right. This is the position of my opponent that consent to sex is a consent to pregnancy, and that is absolutely not true. Consent to sex uh, opens the door for a risk of pregnancy, which there are things that you can do. You can take contraceptives. Um, but what my opponent's stance is that even when you take those parameters and you become pregnant, that now you have no choice because you've consented to the sex. But what he refuses to look at is the right and the liberty that that couple has to make the decision like, no, I don't want to be pregnant. I want to have sex and I don't want to be pregnant. Imagine having that realm of freedom. I think that is a realm and freedom that should be enjoyed by everybody. Now, can there be some exceptions for unborn persons? I think the only legitimate reason would be found in the third trimester. Up until that point, that couple benefits from liberty from their life and able to make their own decisions for their family. The state and society should honor that and really stay out of it.
Okay. Yeah, I think I want to address that as well. Sorry. Yeah, I had to go to the
No,
bathroom
that's
as
fine.
well.
You're right.
I'm gonna go in like around 30 minutes, but look, I provided like this is another like unfortunate circumstance in which I may repeat myself again. There is a revolver, okay? You know what Russian roulette is. We all know what this is. You know the drill. You can minimize the risk of doing Russian roulette, but you still are doing Russian roulette by putting one bullet in, 6 chambers, okay? You're lessening the risk greatly, right? You know what is going to put that risk to like zero? Like, how about not playing Russian roulette? How about not putting a bullet in that chamber? How about not having sex? Okay, if we are going to make the argument that because we are lowering the chances of engaging in that behavior, therefore we are justified in not taking any responsibility from it, we're going to have to apply that to Russian roulette. You can put one bullet in the chamber, shoot that gun, around the target, around target, pointing at other people, and then when that actually does fire, say that, oh, I shouldn't, I didn't consent to shooting people because I didn't know that I was going to shoot people. No, you still have the responsibility. No, you are still liable. Very simple here. Yeah.
And again, just the comparison, it's he's not, it's just a matter of opinion. He seems really opinionated. I seem really opinionated. What really is going to get, what do we agree with? And the law is arbitrary. At some point, I think the two sides need to find some point of agreement. And just to say that you have to suffer the consequences of your actions because it's Russian roulette. I mean, I don't know how you do sex. If that's how you do sex, man, like, gosh, I guess, like, it's
Oh,
scary.
inconspicuous
That's
supernova. Look,
crazy.
look,
I don't know why
inconspicuous
there
supernova.
couldn't be a society. This is why I bring up the car accidents thing. Like, why isn't there like a social netting? Why isn't there some insurances? Like, hey, accidents happen, but we as a society are here to help you. We're here to back you, and we're here
You
to
know
do
what that
what's right.
is? You know what that is? Giving your child a foot anthem. Like that is literally what that social science unit is. You don't
No, you're
need
forcing women out of their will and into carrying a term
no.
to fulfill
Okay,
your
so like
own
this again.
moral obligation.
Okay, so this again, we can say the same thing about, we can say the same thing about murder, but just, talking about the revolver case again. That revolver analogy?
You're categorizing
No,
it as murder.
no, no,
Abortion
no,
is not
inconspicuous.
murder.
Jesus fucking Christ. Did I say all abortions are murder? No, no, no. Tell me this again.
So
This is like in
again,
fucking kindergarten class.
you
No,
keep going to
no,
that
no,
point
no.
like I'm
Tell
making
me.
it up, but you
No,
keep going
no,
to
no,
that
no, no.
little new point like
Tell
you're
me if I
somehow
said.
defending
No,
yourself,
no,
but you're
no.
not
Shut
even
the fuck up.
addressing
No, no,
what
no.
I'm
Tell
saying.
me. No,
We don't
tell
need
me
that.
if I said that abortion is murder. Tell me if I said that. Are you
You
deaf?
You
Are you
have said
mentally
that
ill?
listen. You
Oh my
have
fucking
said that
god.
some abortions are murder, and the abortion that I'm talking about, you say is murder. So yes, you are saying that, but you refuse to address that because you're so
I
caught up on this. Oh, I
I have
didn't say
already
that.
addressed that. I have already addressed that multiple times. You're the one who has never heard me. You're the one who is ignoring my position. I don't think that you providing these arguments is of any value. Like I
All right. We'll move on from there because we have covered the murder one. There was another question about that, but I think we've covered it. Theory Box is asking Dani, is there a moral difference in aborting a 2-week-old baby versus an 8-month, and why? Is it based on the development, likelihood of living a full life, or what?
yeah, I think you're still killing a human being. But then I think what I would say is that it is different in the same way that killing a 90-year-old and killing a 2-year-old are kind of different. They're still murder, right? Killing 90-year-olds and killing 2-year-olds are still murder. Not all abortion is murder, I agree. Okay. But you're still depriving that person of some life. Now, if we are going to take into account the probability of that, fetus, turning into a child, and the probability of, for, let's say, like a third trimester child of turning into a child, that would be approximately the same type of difference that I would feel with killing a 2-year-old and killing a 90-year-old, but still morally reprehensible. Hope that
So
hope that
when you
hope
say
that.
things like that, it sounds like you're against all killing of of humans. Is that right? You're just against all killing?
No,
Okay, so when you say, "Oh, it's killing a person," so what? It doesn't matter. Killing a person is justified. It's how that person is killed. Well, that's what really matters.
yeah. In my analogy, okay. I think we all presuppose when we talk about, oh, you're killing a 90-year-old, you're killing a 2-year-old. We're not talking about Hitler. We're not talking about Mao. We're not talking about Stalin. We're just talking about the general human being, and we all agree that the general average human being is not deserving of just getting killed. I think this is really just grasping at straws here. I mean,
No, it's not,
my
because what you're saying is that a fetus is innocent. And a fetus is not innocent. A fetus is not guilty. A fetus has no capacity for behavior. You're saying that
I
it's
already
only
addressed that point.
innocent
Let's move
because
on.
society conventionally, and it's not conventional, it's not society, but you want to give it innocence. And if
I
you want
already
to give it innocence, that's your religion, that's your belief. You have every right to do that. But when it comes to the
no.
status in the moral sense, a fetus has no moral status because it
Uh,
has no capacity for behavior. And a fetus has no legal status because it's not born.
Okay, so we already addressed that. We already, still status quo, don't have legal status. The society doesn't view it to have moral value. Again, I don't really think I need to address that too much. I think we can move on to the next question. Yeah,
Because
Move
you
on.
can't
Theory
address
Box
I
says
already
thanks.
addressed it.
Okay.
by
Theory
not
Box
addressing.
says thank you for your answer, Dani. There.
Yeah, it's okay.
Um, the next question is: would you rather have been aborted than been born by Diablo, who is still here? Yep, I thought he'd left. Yeah. Would you rather have been aborted than have been born? I'm not sure who he's directing that one to. If he wants to throw it
I
in,
would
anybody
love
can
to
think of
answer that question. I would love to
it?
answer
Okay.
that question because I grow up I was raised by parents who had an abortion before they had me. I'm the firstborn. And they made that decision. They are that loving couple who consented to sex and consented to having an abortion because it was their discretion that they were not ready to start a family. And I am so happy that they were not only had the freedom to make that decision, but they made that decision for themselves because the life that I lived and my siblings lived, we lived in a really great home with loving parents who were ready to start a family and have kids. For the state and people like my opponents to come in and say like people like my parents have no right to make those types of decisions is tyrannical in the most absolute sense. And yes, wars will be start.
Sure, I understand you feel that way. Look, I understand you feel very harshly about this way, okay? But you haven't given me very great arguments. You were just repeating yourself. I don't really think there's anything much to
According to
really tackle there. Oh, look, you're really just saying you look. This is really just name calling. You're just calling me tyrannical, and you're saying that you're gonna start a war over this. Oh, sure, man. I mean, you and your basement. You're gonna pick up your guns and you're gonna shoot
no,
people.
people
Yeah,
start wars to become free. And if you want
sure.
to create
Okay,
a
okay. Yes,
state
yes.
that's
All the women are
going
going to
to
pick up guns and
infringe
you'll
on
shoot
that
people.
liberty, then I hope that you have the finances for war because that's how wars get started. When you start taking
Sure,
away
sure.
rights
Start your war.
from
Okay. Look,
people.
start your war. Okay. Start your war. If that's your argument, start a war. Look, I'm not. Look, the thing is, I'm just not going to address that argument because that's not an argument. Okay. Next question, really. Just let's just move on here.
Okay, the last one that is here, but there's one from the chat that I want to read as well. But it's Okraz again was confirming part of what we talked about regarding viability for both. I think both of you are using viability wrongly. One said a 2-year-old isn't viable. The other said a 2-year-old is viable but not a fetus. Definitions show viability applies to both. But what I think the issue is would be dependent life as opposed to viable life. Check
Yeah,
the
I was
definitions.
using. Yeah, I was using viable life as interchangeable as like dependent life, and life that is dependent of like the mother, life dependent on the womb, life dependent on all the other things. I think that definition is much more convenient for both of us, much more clearing. It doesn't really muddy up the waters on what viability is. So just choose to use that definition. Thank you, Press, for pointing that out.
Okay.
Viability is independence. If you're viable, then you're independence. Now, that might not mean you're able to fly a jet or own a home or feed yourself or something like that, but it means that you're able to exist on your own without the support of any external thing.
Well, then we're going to have to get into a debate on what type of viability it is going to be. But yeah, uh, that really doesn't change anything. Debating definitions doesn't change anything. It is how we use
It
the
changes
definitions and how those
everything.
relate.
Very ignorant. It changes everything.
No, no. Look. It actually it doesn't. Words don't actually change reality. Reality is actually confined and expressed through words, and the way in which you use words are going to change other people's perception of reality. But just changing the way we pronounce women or changing the way we pronounce okras doesn't actually change the state of affairs that is happening outside of our mind. So I think you saying that just because we redefine a certain word, that's going to change reality. I think that actually shows. I don't know what that shows. I don't. I think that's very bizarre.
Well, you're wanting to redefine murder to mean abortion, and
Yeah, I'm
that
not
would
going to
that
respond to that. I am
that
literally not going to respond to that. You
because
are
you
you,
can't.
you are just trolling right
Because
now.
you
I
can't.
can't. I can't.
That's what you want to do. You want to make people,
Okay,
women who just want abortion.
guys. Okay. Did I say? Okay, guys.
You
Did I
cannot.
say
You
that
cannot.
abortion is murder? No, 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 guys. Did I say abortion is murder? Yes or no?
Okay, I'm going
Bro,
to address this again because you have
no, no, no,
selective
no,
hearing.
no, no, bro.
You're not
No, no, bro.
addressing my point.
Did I
You're
say
not
abortion is
addressing the
murder?
fact that women that just want to freely have an abortion, you're saying that
Yes.
they're murdering. They're murdering.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Some
So
type
there.
of abortion is murder, but I did not say that all abortions are murder. Okay, get that
This is
straight.
that type. I keep talking about that type, and then you don't want to address that point. That
Well,
type that you're talking about is murder. I'm telling you is not murder.
okay, next question. Like, really, I just don't even know like how many times I need to say this, but yeah. Like if
You're
you like at this point,
all you're saying is that yes, it is murder, and I'm saying no. To have murder requires intention. You haven't said anything like women intentionally
yeah,
maliciously kill.
if women
No, they
intentionally
do not.
maliciously kill their
No,
child,
they
that is a
do
rule.
not. They
No,
protect
look.
their freedoms. They
Oh
protect
my
their
goodness
lives.
gracious. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay, in the hypothetical where a woman is maliciously and intently killing their own child, killing, doing an abortion, yeah, then yes, that is murder. You can say that that doesn't happen a lot. I agree with you.
You're
Many
saying
women
it's
don't know.
malicious, but you have no proof of the maliciousness. You're just asserting it, and you have no proof.
What?
You
I
have no
mean, this
proof
is
that the intention of the
wait,
woman is
what do you
malicious. It's
wait,
not
I'm not
murder.
making
You're
an
just
argument.
making
Look,
a claim.
this is clown world at this point. I'm not saying that women as a general whole are doing this maliciously. I'm saying if a woman, this is a hypothetical. Hypotheticals don't need evidence. They are not happening within the real world. They are not, objectively quantifiable by empirical evidence. Jesus Christ. Okay. If a
All
woman
right.
is maliciously killing their own child, then yes, that would be murder. Okay, that doesn't require any kind of empirical claim to knowledge.
At 12 weeks, at a 12-week-old fetus, even if a woman had maliciousness towards this fetus or whatever, at 12 weeks, you're going to give it protections to life, and you're going
Oh, we lost you there, Supernova.
Well, thank you for illustrating my point, man. Supernova.
I think you're gone again, mate. You might have gone. We've lost you.
Yeah.
There is just one more question in the chat that I was going to bring up. How would you even enforce celibacy as a legal matter since sex is being compared to Russian roulette? Danny.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think I'm enforcing celibacy as a legal matter. I'm saying people can make decisions, people can make risk and reward decisions, but they're going to be held accountable for it. The same way people, for example, if people are having like Russian roulette, people should be able to play Russian roulette with their own selves. Sure, but once the circumstances are hit upon you, then yeah, you should probably go to jail if you kill another human being.
Okay. Is Inconspicuous back, or are we still having microphone problems? No, okay. It's an unfortunate way to finish, but I don't know if he's dropped out. He might come back in a second. There he is.
He's
Let me
back.
bring him up. See if this works. Come up.
Hello,
Are you
hello.
there? Oh, you're back. Excellent. All right. Cool. Well, that brings us to the end of the questions, gentlemen. If there's anything you wanted to end on, now would be the time, I guess.
Look, Inconspicuous Supernova. I understand that the debate might have become a little fiery, a lot of passionate stuff, but I just want to say that uh, some places I didn't really enjoy repeating myself, but in other cases, I think we had a delightful discussion. We could have been a lot more civil. Well, a lot of that is on me. A lot of that is on you. But I hope that more discussions like this happen. Not only with me, but you with other pro-lifers and me with other pro-choicers. I think there's a very important discussion to have, and not something that we should just hand wave away. And we should really look. I don't view pro-choicers to be like Satan worshiping, Moloch worshiping, child sacrificing people, and I think you should also try and not view pro-lifers to be like pro-government, tyrannical, like what is it? What is the little book that every leftist in the world like says is like basically J.K. Rowling for leftist people? Oh, Handmaid's Tale. Handmaid's Tale. Yeah. Like let's not try like characterize each other in that situation. I think we all think we're doing the right thing. These lead to, tragic circumstances, but still let's just give each other a little credit here.
Supernova? Oh no, not again. We've lost you again, mate. Sorry. You might have to drop out and back in again. We can't hear you again. All right. So just maybe drop out again and come back up, Supernova. I just wanted to, like, while we're waiting then, might just do the thank yous. Thanks to our debaters for today and for all the questions and being a great audience there, having the discussions in the chat. And thanks for the platform for hosting us, and Hannah and Anathema for running the show and all the work that they do in the background. Don't forget to check out any upcoming events that are up there and jump in and get involved. Is there anything else any of the mods would like to add?
Is there what is the
He's back.
channel? Sorry.
Sorry, man.
I heard this debate was being recorded. Is there a way that I can get a copy of this recording or find where it is?
Yeah, who done it will put it up and give us a link, and I'll send it through to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep. Yeah. Anything from the bosses down below? No. All right. Well, we might end it there, gentlemen. Unless, sorry, Supernova. Sorry, you're back. You didn't have a chance to
Thank
wrap
you.
up.
Yeah, I'll just keep it short. I want to say this was a great debate. I had a lot of fun. I know passions got up a little bit, and but I kind of expected that too. Um, yeah, so I think we had a good discussion, and I heard what you said. We should be having good discussions, reaching across to the other side. I think we all value the same things, life and liberty. It's kind of how we value these things and how we even approach them. So when we say things like people should do this or they ought to do that, like that is a real statement that should be considered very heavily. You know, um,
Hmm.
that's where I'll leave it.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Thank you to
thank
the
you.
moderators. Yeah.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks
Thank
to
you,
Who Done It for
Crux.
recording and helping us. Sorry I didn't hit the right button on the event, but we got there. All right. Well, we might say if you are interested, you can jump across to the after show channel, which is just below this one, and continue the discussion there. I'm not sure if the debaters have time to keep doing that, but we'll see how we go. Thank
I
you,
have around
gentlemen.
15 minutes. Let me